This episode of Head in the Office is brought to you by Ground News.
Considering recent events, breaking news can often involve a whirlwind of misinformation. And if you want to get to the heart of a story quickly, our friends over at Ground News can help.
Ground News is a resource you can get on your phone or your computer that collects headlines and stories from around the world and puts them in one place to allow you to compare coverage, check political biases, and see how each publication is funded.
Using Ground News, you can see who's reporting on each story, what their political leanings are, and you can even see news that is going unreported by the right or the left. Ground News offers you an individual breakdown of the content that you've consumed so that you can be aware of your own media diet. Overall, it is a great tool to help understand how narratives are emerging on both sides of the political spectrum in real time.
If you want to help out the show, and I know you want to help out the show, and you want to get a discount on Ground News, go to check.ground.news/headintheoffice for 15% off. The link is also in the description. Their Vantage plan offers all of the features we referenced and more.
Special thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this podcast. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. No cold open today because the news is piping hot.
Yeah, it was a pretty midweek until it wasn't.
Oh my God.
And I mean quite literally.
And look, you know exactly what we're talking about. And I'll say, a tragic event overall. We'll dive into exactly what happened with the Trump rally, but happened before Sunday. And that's the one thing that we can I don't know, I guess, to have easy feelings about.
Exactly.
Bad all around.
If this would have happened on a Monday, that would have been wicked.
Yeah.
Frankly, that would have been wicked.
At least we get to talk about it today at the very least. But welcome back to Head in the Office. We're coming at you with another episode. Before we get into it, we will remind you all to check out our new merch line.
Oh my gosh.
Headintheoffice.com. You can get some merch for yourself. If you want to support the show in another way, patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Postcards are on their way to us.
Yes.
And then if you've signed up for the program already using the form on Patreon, they will be on their way to you.
It's going to be pretty good, guys.
They'll be sending out very soon.
Pretty gas.
Yeah, coming very soon. So if you want to get in on that, if you want to get in on the first ever Hiddo postcard, got to do it now, because once they get shipped out,
they're shipped out. They're gone.
Shipped out.
That's round one done.
Yeah.
In the books.
That's right. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, join the Discord, and of course, register to vote. If you're in Michigan, I think the online voter registration deadline is coming up at the end of July. So if you live in Michigan, make sure you register to vote, because we have a primary in August.
Yes.
And I don't want Alyssa Slotkin to be on the general election ballot.
I'm praying for not the Biden Slotkin ticket.
Yes,
you know what I mean? I can't stand that. I know in Michigan you can also vote like a week early.
Yes.
Pretty gas.
Yes.
On weekends too.
Yeah.
On weekends too. I got a piece of mail about that today.
And I just got my absentee ballot in the mail.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to send it back and get my vote in early. Very excited to vote against Alyssa Slotkin.
Yes,
because
very much so.
Hill Harper for the win.
Woo!
Hill Harper for the win. Anyways, this is going to be a little bit of a limbo episode. We'll be talking about, obviously, the Trump rally, Trump getting shot at, the assassination attempt. We'll talk about... we got some Biden news in here, although it seems a little bit less pressing now after everything that happened yesterday. And then we got some geopolitical updates as well. But before we get to that, let's read our 1 5-star Apple review.
Amazing.
That we got today. This one by Caleb Austin. No one condemns Hamas more than Hiddo. And you can add on to that now. We also condemn political violence of all kinds.
Yes. Of all kinds.
Not only do I condemn Hamas, but I also condemn political violence always and forever.
An important thing to note continuously moving forward.
Exactly. I condemn political violence. FBI, if you're listening to this, I am against political violence. This review reads, just like you, I condemn Hamas actively. Unfortunately, though, I cannot afford to join the Patreon, but that does not mean that you, the listener, should not give all of your money to these boys.
Oh my God, I've been saying this, took the words right out of my mouth.
Every penny you got in your bank account should be direct deposited to us. As someone who lives in Washington State, I feel so privileged that my vote for president doesn't really make an impact. This, of course, allows me to vote for Brent Metal Funk Peterson, who should be the one to rule the United States as its true king, all thanks to the Supreme Court. In all seriousness, the informed and educated takes provided by Hiddo are something I'm very thankful for and look forward to every single week. Again, I can't stress this enough. I condemn Hamas. And I'm sure if this person wrote the review before Saturday, they would also condemn political violence of all kinds.
I think so too. And I'm sure this person was very much looking forward to this week's episode after Saturday.
Yeah, and as a lot of you were.
Understandably.
And before we dive into this assassination attempt news, I'll just say at the top, I need you all to lock in. Lots of people immediately go into conspiracy. Don't do that. We'll talk about the conspiracies, but don't be conspiratorial. And also don't act like democracy's literally over now and Trump's definitely going to win. Lock in. Be analytical.
Exactly.
And don't be conspiratorial. Don't say it's a false flag without evidence.
I already feel much differently about the event like this morning than I did yesterday when I was in Meyer and got a text that it happened. You know what I mean?
And, I was in bed just scrolling sometime past midnight, and I was just on Twitter looking at the tags, seeing what other people had to say, and I scrolled upon, I think it was a Hank Green tweet that said, "Stop looking at the news. Everything will be better sourced tomorrow anyways." And I was like, you know what?
That's very
I'll
true.
just go to bed.
Yeah.
He's right. And that snapped me out of it.
It did.
Because it's true. It is all better sourced now. We have a name and an identification now, and it's just it's much better to look at the news far after the event happened rather than right as it's happening.
It is. It's very unreliable when things are just going down on the ground. People were saying there were multiple shooters at first. Like shit gets wicked out there. People still are lying. As you, I think, have in here, the New York Post immediately said it was a Chinese man. Within the hour.
Just fucking made that up. Complete lie.
Within the hour, they published in their article. A Chinese national. Come on, brother.
Just brewing up some racial animosity. I gotta respect the hustle almost.
It's pretty good.
Even though it's evil.
A real news publication, by the way. Like a real news publication that some people think is credible. Not us. Not us here at Hiddo, but some people do.
The New York Post also last week published the DEI president article that we read on the show.
They are popping off
banger after banger.
Did they switch editors? What's going on?
Racial antagonizing racial tensions in the country. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool and pretty good. But with that, let's get into it, everybody. Trump got shot, as I'm sure we all know. Saturday night, Trump was giving one of his routine speeches at a rally in Pennsylvania when he got shot. He says the bullet pierced his right ear. I'm not going to contend with that. That's the story. I'm sure you already know the details, but we'll go over the quick of it. The bullet barely missed his head, hit the top of his ear. One spectator in the bleachers behind him, or in front of him, I think, was shot and killed, and another two were critically injured as of as of this morning.
Yeah,
those are the updates. I'm not sure if anything else has changed right now, but that's what it is. The story so far is that it was just a man with a rifle on a rooftop about either 150 feet or 150 yards away. Something like that. I'm not going to contend with that a lot of people have been for the past, 12, 24 hours whenever you're watching this. It's like Occam's razor, you know what I mean? I fully believe that's just what happened. I fully believe some guy with a gun, this is America after all, pretty much anyone can go get a rifle, was able to climb up a rooftop that was sort of out of the security perimeter of the Secret Service, and that the snipers just weren't able to see him with a gun aiming at the president before he was able to shoot at him.
Yeah, incredibly plausible.
Exactly. This is the most plausible presidential attempted assassination.
I feel like it is not even close to outside. It is very much inside the realm of possibility that Secret Service was negligent. They didn't check enough areas around the former president where he was going to be speaking, and somebody managed to get a gun and take shots at him. It's almost unsurprising, right? And with the abundance of firearms, it's surprising that more people don't try, given how polarized the country is. Not saying that's right. Political violence bad. Don't do it. But it's America. Anybody can get a weapon. And I'll say, first of all, shout out to Kate. She's a friend of ours, and she moderates our live stream. She was actually the person that broke the news to me.
She broke the news to me as well.
Nice. Yeah, she called me and she was like, someone just tried to shoot Trump, and I was like, no way. That didn't happen. And then she told me about it. But I will say, when it comes to people being conspiratorial, I think obviously don't do it. We already said this. People immediately jump to it's a false flag. It was staged to make Trump look good. I don't think that's true because there's no evidence to support it. But I also think this is people's attempt to sort of impose order on the world where there is clearly no order or rationale or reason behind people's actions. It is very plausible that this guy was just a lone shooter who got a gun and maybe wasn't even politically motivated to do it and was just mentally unwell.
A weird history of presidential assassination attempts being by people who aren't particularly partisan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, John Hinckley Jr. tried to kill Ronald Reagan to impress Jodie Foster.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't have to be explicitly partisan. This guy might have been. We don't precisely know yet. We'll get into his identity later. But my point here is that people, I think, want to sort of impose structure or a narrative onto something that is obviously insane that we all witnessed happen. But it might be the case that there is no rationale for it. There is no broader conspiracy for it. Maybe
people can't fathom that this was just such a kind of like a regular instance of an assassination attempt. The circumstances surrounding it are very much banal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that people maybe can't fathom that, considering how genuinely like historical this event is.
Yeah.
This is the first presidential like assassination attempt, or the first time a president was wounded in an assassination attempt since 81.
Since Reagan, yeah.
Exactly, since Reagan got shot. It's been like 40 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll also note, like, there's been other examples before that. I think Gerald Ford, there was an assassination attempt on him twice while he was running for re-election, and then he went on to lose re-election, by the way. And there was obviously attempts in the past, like Teddy Roosevelt was shot and then continued his speech famously. Presidents, obviously, Abraham Lincoln, JFK were successfully assassinated. There were several attempts on Abraham Lincoln's life before somebody finally got the job done because he was such a polarizing figure. It's not necessarily new in American history, but it is new in modern history, I suppose, because it hasn't happened in so damn long.
It hasn't happened in 40 years. Like, it's crazy. And it's such a historical moment. I think people find it hard to contend that something that is so, like, surreal, something that you wouldn't expect to happen, happened in such a regular way. Like, just so it's just such a regular way. This hyper real event was just whatever.
Yeah, no broader conspiracy. It's just a thing that happened. Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody in the Secret Service had to have necessarily fucked up for this to happen. Sometimes things like maybe slip by. I don't really know. We're waiting on more details from an investigation. I remind you that we are recording on Sunday at 2:30 p.m.
Yeah.
There's a lot of details yet to still come out.
Yeah, and there's sort of a an incentive, I guess, on social media and on other platforms to just jump to conclusions as quick as you can, because that's what gets you clicks. Like, we've already seen right-wingers say it, blame DEI and the Secret Service for causing this negligence, or you know, blaming a broader plot or whatever else. You don't got to have the answers right away.
Exactly.
Because the answers aren't available yet. We just don't know.
Exactly. And you don't have to contend with like these ideas in like the super conspiratorial way. You can contend with the much more vivid reality of, think about all the liberal women with conservative boyfriends. Think about how they're
family members
situation right now. Like, you can turn your head more to that rather than thinking about conspiracies, rather than thinking about, oh, Republicans set this up to boost Trump's poll numbers. Trump doesn't really need a boost in the polls
winning
right now. He's winning. He's winning in damn near every poll. In the Democrats' internal poll, he's winning.
Yeah, this would be a Hail Mary for no reason. Like,
exactly. You wouldn't need to do something. And you also, might I add, something that I feel like a lot of people are missing, you wouldn't have needed to kill a random bystander in the crowd for this to have happened.
Too risky.
If they wanted to stage an assassination attempt, there's a lot of other times when they could have done it when there's not this massive risk of collateral damage.
Yeah.
It's just silly to think it's staged. I really do think so. And it's just intellectually lazy.
Yeah, and I think the locked in response here is to say, okay, obviously you shouldn't try to kill shouldn't try to kill anybody.
Yeah.
Assassination, bad thing. Shouldn't try to do it.
Yeah.
But just recalibrate and say, like, yeah, that's a bad thing that happened. You know, the Trump supporter in the crowd, even though you might have disagreed vehemently with their views, didn't deserve to die at a Trump rally. You know what I mean? But Trump still shouldn't win the presidency. And here's why. And then explain the case against him, because the truth is that his political views are still the same. He's not changed. Just because there's a hard as hell photo going around of him putting his fist up in the air doesn't mean he deserves to be the president.
No, it's wicked because bro literally got flick of the century.
Yeah.
Like, bro got flick of the century. He is a born entertainer. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. You know what I mean? He a bullet flicks his ear. He hears that shit whiz by his head. Blood's gushing out of his head. He gets on the ground. The pic of him on the ground is hard as hell too, where he's like glowing. Insane.
I know.
And then he gets up and pumps his fist while the Secret Service is trying to push him away. Come on, Biden could never.
He just got shot. Multiple shots rang out, like 8 or something like that, and he gets back up. And they let him, by the way. That's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
they should have kept him on the ground.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's a surreal moment, and it's a surreal picture, and it's a sick fucking picture. I can't even lie. Like, that was my first thought. Is like when Kate texted me, I was in Meijer, and I didn't have a signal to be able to look up the story. So I'm thinking, holy shit, you get shot and walk away from it. That's the coolest thing ever. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, shortly after, I think about an hour and a half after, past Biden's bedtime, he went live at a little presser at like 8:15, and he said, there's no place in America for this violence. That's why we need to unite this country, and I'd like to thank Secret Service and law enforcement. He also made some remarks about how he's trying to get a hold of Donald Trump to like talk to him while he's at the hospital, which it's like,
he did eventually do that. Yeah.
Exactly, which it's like, okay, like there was nothing wrong with the statement that he made. It was very banal. It was very bog standard, and importantly, just inoffensive.
Yeah.
Like, he did everything that he needed to do up there, and even more importantly, he didn't have a Biden moment.
Mm-hmm.
God, could you imagine if he like fucks up his name or something on there? You never hear the end of it.
Yeah, and it's like there are some people taking issue with this because Biden says, Democrats always say Donald Trump's a threat to democracy, and some people on their left are like, well, why are you wishing him well now? It's like the politicians are going to politic.
Exactly.
Like this is what you say. I don't think there are any Democrats, any liberals that literally wish death upon Donald Trump. They want to beat him in the election. Nothing Biden said can even be construed to mean like, oh, someone should go out and kill Donald Trump.
And it's also like
of course they're going to say this.
I do think that both ideas can exist in your head, that someone is indeed a threat to democracy and they would do bad things, and I don't know, even fucking be evil if they win power and win office, without also thinking that they should fucking die in an assassination attempt.
No, yeah, I mean? Precisely.
Both of those things can exist. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
that was very much on the same line.
That was something I wanted to bring up, and it's like, just because you say something is a threat doesn't mean that you are promoting the most extreme action to tackle that threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I believe Trump is a threat to democracy, but I also think there's far more utility in beating him legitimately at the polls rather than having somebody, take his life.
And I think
like normalizing political assassinations or political violence in this way is far more harmful to democracy than losing to Trump in the polls, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Like it's just, especially because then Republicans just run somebody else that believes the same things.
And it's like, if you are to normalize political violence in a way, it is you can't normalize it with the institutionalist party. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how to sort of like articulate this, but it's like, if you were to normalize political violence in any sort of way, normalize assassination attempts on political figures, would the bad party not just do it harder and do it worse and do it in the wrong ways?
It seems like they're kind of already calling for that.
Yeah.
Because they're using this attack on Trump, seemingly a political attack on Trump, although the jury's still out on that one, to justify maybe doing violence against Joe Biden and Democrats more broadly, because they're blaming this entirely on Joe Biden.
And that's where you kind of get into this whole other conversation where it's like, obviously, you shouldn't do political violence, but it's fucking stupid. Like, there's no real analysis behind like, oh my God, if I go to this rally and I shoot Donald Trump, things will be better for democracy if that's what's motivating him, or things will be better for the Republican Party and Project 25 if that's what's motivating him. You know what I mean? There's no analysis there where Trump doesn't become a martyr, whether he dies or lives like he did.
There's far more utility in beating him at the polls than beating him like by literally killing him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because there's attacks on authoritarians' life, and there's good social science on this topic. Attacks or assassination attempts on historical figures, authoritarians throughout history, emboldens them.
Yeah.
And it creates a narrative around them that like they're the chosen one, that they're the only ones that can protect their society, protect their culture, and stuff like that. And doing this kind of thing to your political opponents is only going to especially on the right, is only going to make them stronger and galvanize their base around them.
Especially when this is kind of what Republican rhetoric has been building up to, I guess, for the last, 12 years since 2016? You know what I mean? Because it's like, when Trump came on the scene in 2016, he came up on this idea that he's this outsider that's going to drain the swamp. That's why people liked him. He was not the establishment guy. He was anti-establishment.
Yeah.
He used populist rhetoric, and it appealed to people because they believed he wasn't a politician, because politician is the same thing as lie. You know what I mean? In the median voter's eye. And that's what got him elected, is that kind of thing. And during his administration, and importantly throughout the 2020 campaign, his rhetoric kind of expanded from where it was, look at how violent the minorities that the left props up are. It changed to look at how violent the left as a whole is when we have the BLM riots and they're burning down entire cities.
Portland's gone.
Portland doesn't exist anymore. Democrat-run cities, they don't exist anymore. Like everything like that. The rhetoric very much shifted from just 1350 to, oh, look at every single liberal is a communist who wants to kill you. You know what I mean? It's very much the left as a whole.
And that was Trump's
violent.
doing. Yeah.
And that's 100%. That is Trump's mark on politics and like modern American political history, right? And then a little bit ago, we have the narrative, the FBI is after Trump. The DOJ is being actively weaponized. And while that one certainly resonated with diehard Trumpers, I think it fell a bit more flat with moderates. But because like the sheer number of criminal plots this dude was implicated in was just it was too much. You know what I mean? He was in a bit too much trouble for regular like independent voters, maybe people who lean like a little bit right but weren't going to go out and vote to actually believe.
For so much of it, it's just like, yeah, he fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like for so much of it, the evidence is just so obvious.
But now that Trump has genuinely been targeted with an attack on his life, people are, at least some people, will go out there and believe that maybe the left is violent. I don't know. It is too early right now to call. I'm going to say that right now. We are in genuinely unpredictable territory right now.
It's just hard to know.
It's so hard to know. One, it hasn't happened in 40 years. Is happening in a completely different context. You know what I mean? But I do find it hard to believe that some median voters aren't getting out there like, whoa, now, hold on, like, Democrats, you've been telling me that Donald Trump is this threat to democracy. You've been telling me that Republicans are violent ones or whatever. But here we have Trump with an assassination attempt. It gets a bit more complicated when we consider that this guy was found out to be a registered Republican.
Yeah, he very strange political character.
Like,
this guy.
This is an interesting case, right?
Yeah,
and it's hard to call, but I find it hard to believe that it won't galvanize at least some people.
Yeah, I just can't stress enough that as people that are on the left, I'm guessing people that are listening to this are on the left, don't go out there and say like, oh, the bullet should have hit him. You know what I mean?
Please
First
don't.
of all, if you're putting that into writing on like Twitter, the future employers are going to find that shit.
Exactly.
And that's just going to look bad because future employers don't want someone that's wishing death upon somebody else in their offices, right? But on top of that, it's a bad thing to say. And also, it's not even politically advantageous because regular people are going to look at that and be like, okay, what's wrong with you?
Bad thing to say. And the greater sin, not proper analysis of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I genuinely feel like should Trump have died, should the assassination attempt have worked out, things would be genuinely so much worse. I initially thought that maybe this is the worst case scenario. Trump survives, he's martyred, and what's going on? If he dies, he is replaced with someone that is a million times worse. Trump, for all of his awful qualities, for all of the awful things that he's built his platform on, he's like kind of incompetent, you know what I mean? He's been coming out. He's bad at politics. And that's why people like him, is because he's bad at politics. He can't really do the conniving thing that most establishment guys can.
And he's got no self-control. And people have made this point a lot. It's like Biden and Trump are the only two dudes that could lose to each other. I guess you could throw Hillary Clinton in that mix too because she lost to Trump in 2016. But it's like if we had anybody else running against Trump, we would have better chances, especially if we didn't have to deal with the whole thing of replacing Joe Biden. Like if we had had a person ready since like 2022 or something like that, it would have been a lot easier. But Trump's not a good candidate.
No.
A lot of people do not like Donald Trump. He's got his base of support. That's like what? 35, maybe 40% of the country.
Like most Americans support Democratic policies. Like nobody cares about policy. It's all about messaging.
It's
but
vibes.
most people say they support Democratic policies.
But like Trump's got maybe 35%, maybe 40% of the population on lock, but he needs more than that to win.
Yes.
Even in the broken electoral college system, Trump's not a particularly good candidate. It's just that Biden's really bad.
Exactly. 100%. And it's like I just it's such an interesting question what's going to happen with the election, because one, this is a layup with messaging. This is going to be the center of like every conservative ad moving forward, and it's like I can't even blame them for it.
But it's like I don't want to underestimate the right's ability to completely fumble the opportunity here.
Absolutely,
because almost immediately we had Sean Hannity and I think some other Fox News heads get on and just start spinning conspiracies like right away. Either blaming Joe Biden or saying it, like we got Elon Musk on Twitter basically saying that the Secret Service were like in on it.
Oh, then he tried to make it about him.
And then he was like, well, people have tried to assassinate me too. But it's like the right has a perfect opportunity to show themselves as the victims and make an argument that they deserve to be elected because the left has gone too far or whatever. But if they're not careful, they will come across as like explicitly insane.
Yeah.
And some of them have already subtly called for more violence on top of this. Exactly,
because it's like you can even with the shooter coming out to have been confirmed like a registered Republican, you can even spin that as like, okay, it was some sort of rhino, whatever. Still, Democrats' rhetoric has been doing this because this situation in of itself vindicates so many of the ideas that they had just thrown out there. And, like, I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think the best pivot for Republic, they're not capable of doing this at this point because they've gone too far, right? But the best pivot for them would be to say the left has gone too far with their rhetoric. Joe Biden was on the debate stage in June calling Trump Hitler, so on and so on. We need to unite the country and come together.
Yeah.
And then that way, the right could make the left seem like the extremists, whereas lately in the 2020 election, Joe Biden made the right look like the extremists, preventing us from unifying. But I don't think the right is capable of doing that right now because they've been calling Joe Biden Hitler since since 2021.
I genuinely think like Trump, we just talked about it. He's not good at politics, and we've sort of seen these Trump type figures pop up and be propped up within the Republican Party, and it's kind of spread out to where they're not competent like they used to be.
Yeah.
And you could say maybe the Republicans were never competent, but they at least used to do a little bit more of the game. Like Mitch McConnell got shit done. You know what I mean? Mitch McConnell, well, he got shit done by not getting shit done, but there was
obstruction.
There was a game that he played. Trump can't really do that, and the people Trump brought up won't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like all these news networks as well, your OANs, your Newsmaxes, I can't see them actually being able to come up with a coherent narrative outside of conspiracies.
And it's just like the smart move again would just be for the right to try to take the centrist unity angle here, but they can't even help themselves because they're out here blaming DEI already.
Exactly.
Like that shit sounds crazy to people. Like the median voter is a very vibes based person. But the average American won't ever say that they like extremism, right?
No.
Like I'm on the far left.
Yeah.
I would be called an extremist. And I could even get like the average voter to agree with a lot of the policies that I support through, discourse and dialogue. But people, generally speaking, will say they don't like political extremes. The smart move for the right here would be to paint the left as the political extreme while moving their party to the center. But I don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
They're too far gone. They've already got their members out here blaming DEI and like women being in the Secret Service now. It's just insane. They can't do it.
Insane. Like the head of the Secret Service is a woman, and so many people just went out like that. Oh yeah, surprise! This happens now.
It's like, what are you talking? The Secret Service, like when Ronald Reagan had an attempt on his life, I can promise you the Secret Service was entirely male. We haven't had political assassination attempts since then on presidential candidates or the president himself, at least as far as I know. Not one this explicit, not one this severe.
I would argue that since we've had female Secret Service agents, presidential assassinations have gone down.
Presidents and their candidates have been very safe.
Generally much safer.
Yeah. There's a good argument that the sort of the growing inclusiveness, I guess, of the Secret Service has contributed to the president's and the candidate's safety.
And I'm not going to correlation causation post, but
that's all I'm saying.
There's a correlation.
Like we lost tons of presidents when Secret Service was entirely male.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say.
And that's how it goes. Another thing that happened is Biden announced that they're going to be pausing all of their ads against Trump. And at first, I kind of had some thoughts about this. I thought that it was dumb. I thought just because something bad happens to someone, that doesn't mean we need to pause criticism of the bad things that they actively plan to do in the future.
Yeah.
And while I still generally agree with like that statement right there, just because bad things happen to people doesn't mean you can't criticize them for being bad. I do think pausing ads is the right move. You know what I mean? Like, one, not every person thinks like that, especially the median voter. And being the sort of optics pilled, just analysis chat that I am, I'm going to see this and say, okay, what? Joe Biden pauses attack ads on Donald Trump for a couple days, maybe a week tops.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's really going to have any meaningful effect.
And Biden's got like $300 million pumping into these ads, and they're not really helping him anyway.
Exactly. Just save the money. And it can only stand to hurt because in the eyes of the median voter, honestly, in the eyes of everyone, this should be a fucking insane event. This should be something insane that should not happen. You know what I mean? We should not be assassinating political candidates. The proper way to handle it is to beat them at the polls. Like, I'm sorry, but that's how this has got to go.
Yeah, we have an electoral system still. Considering
how the American electorate thinks as well. Like, you only have something to lose when you're attacking the guy that just got shot.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. At first I was like, well, maybe he should keep attacking, but I think even if we're just talking purely self-interested politics, it looks better if he doesn't attack him, at least for a couple of days, especially because the RNC is starting tomorrow for us. We'll talk about that later in the episode. Just wait till the RNC is done, and then you can attack him on the same shit.
Then you'll have fresh things to talk about. You'll say, oh, Donald Trump is still doing this. Like, it's really easy. Like, I think that's the right way. And it makes me upset to see so many people like attacking that idea without, I guess, thinking it through. You know what I mean?
I think it looks real bad if Donald Trump almost died, literally inches. The bullet was inches away from
I wouldn't even say inches. I would say less than an inch away.
Yeah.
The margin of error on that shot was insane.
Yeah, like he was very close to literally dying. I think it's fine if he pauses ads for a few days. I think it would probably look bad if he kept attacking without even recognizing
He only has things to lose with very little to gain if he keeps running sustaining an ad. I mean, how much will sustaining ads for a couple of days really affect the campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on, man. I don't really know. And I guess those are sort of my thoughts on it. I did think it was funny when I was watching ABC. David Muir was covering it, and he said something along the lines of, is this going to be a moment of unity for the country, or are people just going to retreat to their tribal corners? And I cannot stand tribal posting.
Oh my God,
cannot
dog.
stand when people say tribalism when talking about politics, man.
I saw somebody post in earnest that Trump and Biden should hold a joint press conference. That's so good. I would, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do it. That would be funny.
We were supposed to have an emergency debate this week. Trump called for it. We could have got that. Oh my God, man.
Before we move on from this, I figure I've got a couple of tweets we can read from some just like exceedingly crazy,
some dubious figures,
right wingers here. There was, of course, some crazy posts by the left. I wouldn't. There's a lot of posts we just can't read on air. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Not that I would want to
takes
anyway.
that are stupid for reasons that we already said.
Yeah, exactly.
If things would have went the other way, it would have been worse. It just would have been worse.
But I think this sort of showcases how the right is overcommitting, I guess, in a way.
Okay.
They're going too far with their rhetoric, and they're not using this moment in a way that could earn those median voters back that they really need to get in order to win the election in these swing states. First one was from JD, and I want to stress, these are both the tweets I'm going to read from elected Republicans. This is not just a guy.
It's not just an uncle somewhere. Yeah. It's not a dad. It's not a lunatic relative.
Not even like a Fox News guy. These are elected Republicans. The first one's from JD Vance. He said, "Today is not some isolated incident. The central premise of Biden's campaign is that Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination." So J.D. Vance just explicitly blaming Joe Biden.
All right.
And then I've got from Mike Collins, a representative from Georgia. He said, "The Republican district attorney in Butler County, Pennsylvania, should immediately file charges against Joseph R. Biden for inciting an assassination."
Oh my God, man, we're so unserious.
And then he quote tweeted a tweet that was quoting Joe Biden saying, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in the bullseye." And Mike Collins said, "Joe Biden sent the orders."
Oh my God. And it's the craziest part is like people fucking believe that.
Yes.
There was also a tweet that Joe Biden posted like 6 hours before the event happened that we quote tweeted because it's funny. It's just bad timing.
He's talking about guns. Yeah.
Something about Trump didn't do anything about the NRA. This is his problem or something like that. And it's like, oh man, I guess it really was. But holy ominous timing. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's like, first of all, it's rich how Republicans now somehow believe that charged speech can lead to violence. After saying that, Trump did nothing to do with January 6th, that the right hasn't been explicitly calling for the extermination of transgender people in this country.
After making fun of Paul Pelosi when he was attacked with a hammer and someone tried to kill his wife.
It's rich how now they think stochastic terrorism is a thing when before they clearly didn't. But I also want to note that criticizing your political opponent and making apt comparisons is not the same as inciting violence against them.
Yes.
These are not the same things because, first of all, the question is, where's the line, right? Is any criticism of Donald Trump going to be construed as potentially trying to encourage violence against him?
Yeah.
That seems like it's wrong. And then also when it comes to the comparisons of Hitler, because a lot of people have been saying Joe Biden compared Trump to Hitler, which led to this assassination attempt. Those comparisons were done in the context of Trump saying things that were ominously similar to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people posting the was it the New Republic cover where it was Trump with the Hitler mustache that was mimicking some sort of Hitler poster from like World War II.
Yeah,
and people were like, "This is why someone tried to assassinate Trump. This is why things are going the way they are." And it's like, is it?
Well, and that's the thing is like if somebody says something that is similar to what Hitler said or what the Nazis said, are they not allowed to point that out? Because Trump said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. Trump compared leftists to vermin. Trump's former staffers has said that he's praised Adolf Hitler before. It's like, at what point can we say that he's doing Hitler shit? And if we can't say that at all, does he just get away with it because it could encourage violence against him?
And it's also interesting because I feel like when right-wingers get on the air, get on their programs, get on their platforms, and do things that maybe Democrats say is inciting stochastic terrorism, it's because they speak in a way that kind of is. It's speaking away like someone needs to do something about this person.
They're speaking about groups as a whole.
Yeah.
They're speaking about immigrants or trans people as an entire social group. They're not talking about the actions of one guy who are very explicitly close to what Hitler actually said.
Saying Donald Trump is a threat to democracy is not the same as saying someone needs to do something about Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Like those are two very different things with very different implications. One of them is very clearly stochastic terrorism. The other is just making an apt comparison. Or even if you don't want to say it's an apt comparison, which I don't understand how you would be listening to this program, you could even say that's just like, sure, political hyperbole when you're attacking an opponent that you think is going to be bad for the country. Like,
and not to mention that we're talking about fucking Joe Biden. Joe Biden explicitly says every single time he talks about Trump that we should beat him at the polls.
Yes.
When the Supreme Court just said that presidents cannot be federally prosecuted for the acts they commit as president, he said, I'm going to respect what the Supreme Court has said, and I'm going to respect the rules of the office.
When Sotomayor literally said in her dissent that the president could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, Joe Biden did not comment on that.
Yeah.
Joe Biden did not comment on any of the things that the dissenting justices said that he could do that were morally dubious. He just said, I dissent.
Like, I'm sorry, if you've spent years talking about how Joe Biden is sleepy and about how he's incompetent, how he's feeble and he can't even be coherent at any point, which at this point seems like coherence is kind of tough for him. I just don't buy the argument that he's having this fiery rhetoric that's motivating violence against his political enemies.
Especially motivating Republicans to do violence, or at least
that's a good point.
Alleged Republicans. I don't know. The dude was a registered Republican.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Presidential assassins have a history of just being weird politically. It came out that he donated $15 to some like progressive PAC in, was it 2016? When he was like a teenager, and then in 2022.
No, it was 2020. It was actually, weirdly, it was on Inauguration Day for Joe Biden in 2020.
In 2020, he donated like $15 to some progressive cause, and then in 2022, he voted Republican in the midterms, or he was a registered Republican in the midterm elections in Pennsylvania, so he was voting for Dr. Oz. Like, a weird character.
Like, if you could find evidence to suggest that he was motivated by what Democrats or Joe Biden specifically said, then you'd have an argument that, okay, maybe Joe Biden is going too far with the rhetoric against Trump if he's like motivating people to do violence. But there's no evidence of that, first and foremost. This guy seems to have inconsistent political beliefs at best. And it's nonsense to claim that a figure like Joe Biden is somehow motivating violence when every single time he talks about Republicans or Trump, he's talking about voting to defeat them.
He got on and he's like, I'm going to call the guy. I'm going to call the guy, Jack. And it's like, you know what? Now, I've never been for the Joe Biden like unity shtick. But genuinely now, if conservatives are going to fumble their messaging bag so entirely devastatingly hard and lean more into right-wing extremism, I feel like the unity thing might be able to kind of counteract how Republicans are going to message about this.
Yeah.
I feel like the unity thing will stick in the mind of the median voter's head. Like, okay, shit, maybe things are too polarized. Maybe we need a candidate that can unify the country.
Yes.
And although I don't think anyone really believes that Joe Biden can do that, the comparison is between Joe Biden and Trump. And Joe Biden is going to be the guy more so than Trump is. I mean, we'll see how he talks at the RNC, but I doubt Trump's going to get out there and be like, guys, extremism is too much in this country. Look what happened to me. We need to come together.
Like, obviously, this is counterfactual, but you're not going to get me to believe that Trump wouldn't dunk on Biden if this happened in reverse.
Absolutely. Oh, my God.
Trump would continue campaigning. He would say something like, I wish him the best. This shouldn't happen. But, the radical left.
Exactly.
That's, like, Trump would have got out there. And I'm not saying Biden should go and do that, but these are clearly not equivalent political actors that we're dealing with here. And I think it's silly to equate what Joe Biden says and what Democrats say compared to how Republicans have encouraged violence or talked about violence in the past related to like immigrants or transgender people. It's not the same. Like I don't know how to get that across anymore explicitly.
Speaking of, thank God it was not an immigrant or a transgender person, because
Oh
I would never hear the end of it. That would have vindicated conservatives so much harder.
Yeah.
The fact that it was like a presumably straight cis white guy, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Also, a history of straight cis white guys just doing mass shootings in this country. Someone should check that out.
Not only was it a presumably presumably straight cis white man, but it was also a dude wearing YouTube merch.
Demolition Ranch, a gun YouTuber merch. Like, come on.
I can't imagine how would we react if it was fucking Hito merch.
Vehemently condemn political violence. Reading off, I condemn political violence like the Patreon list. I swear to God.
Yeah, it is every content creator's worst fear that someone's going to do something terrible while you're wearing your shit. But, we have a locked in, we have a evidence and reality pilled listening base.
Yes.
So they wouldn't do that. And I know our listening base condemns political violence and Hamas.
100%. And coming through with the incredibly nuanced takes. You know what I
hope
mean?
so. I saw some of y'all freaking out in the Discord.
I did.
I did see, I read the messages.
I did. I was present.
Uh-huh.
I was present. But it's going to be okay. It's tough to say how this event is going to play in 2 months. You know what I mean? While certainly I would certainly expect a boost in the polls this week.
Rallied around the flag, yeah.
One, because of the RNC, and two, because of this. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely going to be some positive effect. But is that going to last 2 months from now? I don't think anyone can tell.
Yeah, and the thing is that I feel like so much has happened since the debate that it's almost impossible to know, unless they're specifically asking about it in the polling, what is driving Trump's increase in polls. Because it could just be because Biden's old and people are realizing that more than ever.
Exactly.
It could be there's a rally around the flag effect. It could be that the RNC ends up being positive press attention, although I doubt that because the RNC is always fucking insane.
Lunatics.
But like, yeah, we'll see. And honestly, my hot take here is that people are not going to be talking about this for that long.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be that salient of a thing to message on in like a month from now.
I already feel like people are starting to not talk, and it's just like the next day. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the messaging kind of like came and went. And
especially because it came out that it was a white dude.
Yeah. Oh my God. I genuinely cannot imagine if it was any sort of marginalized person that committed something like this. Me personally, I'm waiting for this guy's Reddit to be found to see what was going on, or his 4chan account or something, to see any sort of message history, see if he left a manifesto or something. Because right now I guess it's kind of hard to message when you have to worry about more details coming out about this guy that can run counter to the message. Conservatives have a history of just lying and not really caring, but I think maybe this time they're trying to be more sensitive so they can really nail the point home.
I did see that some accounts on Twitter were trying to claim that it was actually not the person that the FBI reported, and that it was some other guy that like was a known member of Antifa.
Oh,
just explicitly lying, shamelessly.
I love the Twitter experts that got out in here. My favorite was the Twitter gun experts. Like, no, that can't possibly be a 223.
I actually have a background in munitions, so
exactly. You know, that JDAM couldn't have blew up that whatever. Like, I love the munitions experts. Like, you know, from that angle at that speed, like that in this awful audio recording from like somebody's fucking iPhone, or this raw audio from a camera that it doesn't even have a good audio setup. That doesn't sound like a 5.56 to me. Something else must have been happening. This must have been multiple shooters. Something was going on here.
Yeah, just making shit up. Like, it's okay to not know.
It's okay to just shut the fuck up sometimes. It's okay to make fun of other things instead of just diving into the conspiracy brain things.
But look, I'm asking you all formally. This is an official notice. We've talked about this before when everyone was freaking out about Biden, and then, you know, freaking out about people calling on Biden to drop out. No matter what, it's going to be a long 4 months.
Yes, it is.
Lock in.
You know,
we can do it. Lock in, you and me.
I've been talking about for a couple episodes how this year has been probably just like the worst, most middest election year in like modern American history.
Sad.
Nothing had gone on. Everything was boring. The Republican primaries didn't matter. The Democrats didn't even do primaries in every state because, like, incumbents and whatnot.
And they should have.
And they absolutely should have. Considering where we are now, they absolutely should have. And then as soon as the debate dropped, a switch just fucking flipped.
And yeah, now it's been 2 years of history.
Like a flash in the pan. Everything that should have been spread out over the year just happens in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What's going on?
And like for this show, you know, because I throughout the week I'm thinking of things that we can put in the show for Sunday, and I think I wrote down in my notes on like Tuesday that Trump backed off from Project 2025, and that's just fucking irrelevant now. Like, there's not even like everything becomes obsolete within 48 hours.
I was like, oh, this is going to be the Biden press conference review episode. No, the fuck it was not.
It's like every 2 days there's something new and huge that happens, and it's what a time to be alive.
And it's like I'd be lying if I said that my first like sort of thoughts when I found this out was like, oh, there's no way Trump's not going to win now. You know what I mean? But I do think that Biden has an opportunity to genuinely step in and make good on these unity promises and genuinely be sort of a unity anti-extremism candidate, because now we kind of have a very real extremist political act that happened that he can just kind of message on. He can absolutely take this moment away from conservatives, and if he doesn't, Democratic strategists become a much faker job.
Well, it would be good if he could, but Biden and messaging.
Oh my God, yeah.
Kind of a juxtaposition, Biden and good messaging, and that's what we can start talking about now.
Could you imagine if we had like Obama today? Like if we, oh my God, could you imagine if we had an orator up there?
Yeah, and there's also the whole contradiction where it's like everyone's condemning political violence, but a few months ago that police forces were brutalizing student protesters.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's political violence that nobody seems to care about.
It's like, I agree, but also like, or I've also seen the take that's like, these people want to condemn political violence now, but they don't want to condemn what's happening in Gaza. And yes, true. That's very true. From the way that I analyze things and the way that I feel about these things, I wholeheartedly agree. But I can also step into the shoes of like a politician and kind of understand why. I think it's slimy and stupid and kind of disgusting, but like I understand why why politicians are acting the way that they are.
Yeah, and like they should condemn political violence, and they should also condemn the violence in Gaza.
Exactly.
like both deserve condemnations. We're not going to get that though, but I did expect Biden and basically every Democrat to come out and say what happened to Trump was terrible, because like what else are they going to say?
Exactly.
Like,
and
he had it coming. That's not good. You can't say that.
Could you imagine if AOC hopped on the airwaves and was like, "Oh yeah, I knew this was coming"?
I mean, bad thing to say, and it'd also just be stupid politically.
Exactly. It's like, I get it, but it's like I do wish they had more of a spine. But I understand.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Speaking of spineless, speaking of bad messaging,
yes,
I think it's time to move on to Biden and maybe the K-Hive. Maybe the K-Hive one day.
Fresh off the bat, if Biden were to step down right now, if two things, if conservatives can genuinely capture this moment and keep it going for the next 4 months, right? That's they got the news cycle on lock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless Biden were to step down and there's a contested convention. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm saying what we need to happen is let the RNC go by.
Yep.
Let them get their coverage. Let them launch their attacks, presumably at Joe Biden or just the Democrats generally. And then on Thursday or whenever their shit's done, completely switch up.
Yes.
Because then all the messaging that comes from the RNC, all the clips, all the videos is just completely obsolete.
Yeah.
At least for the most part. And then you can switch up to a new candidate, adopt an updated platform, and everyone's excited about the Democrats again heading into August.
Pretty good.
Yeah, smart. Look, put me on the team.
Put me on the team.
Put me on the team. Pay me six figures.
I could make strategist a real job again.
I was just about to say that. So over the last week, even more Democrats began calling on Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race. As of last Friday, that number is up to about 19 elected members of Congress calling on Biden to drop out. Mostly House members. There was, I think, maybe one or two senators that called on him to drop out, and several more that have been flirting with the idea behind the scenes. On top of that, we've been getting what seems like daily reports that various anonymous congresspeople want Biden to drop out, but are too afraid to speak up about it. I would say that's cowardly. What do you have to lose?
I think so too, yeah. If anything, you have your seat to lose. It's down ballot effects.
I have seen that most of the people speaking out are either in swing states or swing districts, but also it's the right thing to do.
Which is also kind of interesting, considering the narrative about the people who want Biden to step down is that they're the party elites. Like, people have been calling the Pod Johns the party elites because they've switched up on Biden, rightfully so.
They're fucking podcasters,
but
dog.
No, literally.
Like, I don't get where that comes from. I've been seeing the party elite argument, but also the argument that it's only white people, which just isn't true.
Exactly. It is literally people, like, the House members that are coming out are the House members in the most contested spots. They're the people with the most to lose. It's not the people in New York. It's not the people in California in these super safe districts. Like, I'm sorry, that's not the case.
Yeah, and I've also, like, I've seen on Twitter a lot of people going like, oh, it's only white Democratic elites that want Biden to drop out. Then the person saying that is a white Democratic elite.
Exactly.
It's like, what are you
person
talking
saying
about?
There's a white Democratic elite, and their replies are flooded with people showing them the polls of Black American voters
like
not supporting Joe Biden staying in the race.
Yeah.
Like,
come on, it's silly. Hakeem Jeffries dropped a very vague letter, I think on Thursday, basically saying that he met with Joe Biden and expressed concerns.
Okay.
Importantly, the letter did not say that he is fully standing behind Joe Biden. It didn't even say like Joe Biden is our candidate, just that Hakeem Jeffries met with him, expressed the concerns of the Democratic Party within the House, and that was about it. Some people view that as like permission for other Democrats to speak out. Others think it's just a whole nothing burger, but who knows?
I've seen the same sort of thing with Clyburn, right?
Yeah.
He's the minority whip?
Something like that. Yeah, he's a party official.
He's like the third highest member in the party right now. He usually sucks. Like, he's usually very awful, very establishment, very kind of like old views on how politics should run. I think he's pretty anti like the progressive members.
Yeah.
Either way, he had been very vehemently pro-Biden, and I guess this week his rhetoric kind of switched up a little bit, and he's like, yeah, whoever is up there, I would choose to support.
Yeah, he keeps saying like Biden's the guy. Well, he's never even like explicitly saying Biden's the guy, but he'll say like Joe Biden is the nominee, like presumptive nominee. But after that, he always says, but if it's Kamala Harris, I'll support her too.
But I will support Kamala Harris.
He's been pretty wishy-washy. I think to see Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, and Jim Clyburn all wishy-washy on this is sort of telling.
Yeah.
Because we're getting this this weird dynamic where Biden is saying explicitly, like, you cannot misinterpret this in any way, he is staying in the race.
Yes.
Biden has repeatedly said, I am staying in the race. I have earned the delegates. The people have spoken. It's me. He's putting out letters about it. He said in multiple interviews and press conferences or, radio appearances, whatever, that he is staying in the race. But then Democrats, Nancy Pelosi and others, keep saying, well, he'll make a decision. Well, we'll trust what he says.
We'll see what's to come in the future.
And it's strange.
Yeah.
It to me says that a lot of Democrats are like, they don't want to come out and explicitly say Joe needs to drop out, but they're like, well, we want him to, but we're just not going to say it.
But like, it would be better, but I don't want to hurt the guy's feelings.
Yeah.
But I'm close with Jill, and she wants him to stay in the race.
Of course, last week was a major moment for Biden's continued political survival because he hosted a press conference after the NATO summit where he answered live questions with no teleprompter. Very sad that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't
strictly
understand.
A job requirement, right?
Yeah, I don't understand why it's a big deal that someone who has to speak just impromptu with random questions at the nation can't have like a teleprompter in front of him, or if somebody gives a speech, they can't have a teleprompter. News anchors have teleprompters. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're fucking dumb. I don't get that.
Well, it's because Biden's got to prove that he's able to do it.
I was going to say, I do understand it in Biden, but they were doing it with Obama too.
Okay.
Like, it's been a thing that conservatives have been doing for the last couple of years. Like, oh, these Democrats, they can't speak without a teleprompter, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, other than Joe Biden, stupid criticism.
Yes.
Really dumb criticism.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But it was a big deal that Joe Biden did it without a teleprompter. And I say that's sad because it's like, I don't want it to be a big deal that he's able to do a teleprompter.
Exactly.
But that's where we are. And I want to, so he started off this conference by just yapping about NATO. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of forgivable because it was the NATO summit that this press conference was held at. Little less excusable in the previous interviews and other talk shows he's done where he repeatedly brought up NATO because nobody cares about NATO in the American electorate. Nobody cares.
Oh my God, not a single person.
Yeah.
Not a single person.
Like, Biden keeps yapping about how he's the guy who held NATO together, and it's like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, even to the extent that that's true, I don't even really know what he's referencing, maybe like Ukraine and Russia, but nobody cares what you did with NATO. It's not a salient political issue.
Most people do not really give a shit about what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to say that maybe, I don't know, I haven't seen polling on this, most people, or at least half of all people, are pretty, like, think it's dumb that we're sending so much money over.
No, that's true. I was listening to the 538 podcast on the way over here, and they did some polling on just Biden's various policy proposals of what he's actually put out for this upcoming election. And one of them, I think, is like sustained funding for Ukraine. And that was polling at like 38% support.
Exactly. Like
people don't like the policy.
And you know what? Maybe the NATO thing is insulated from that because I guess the median voter wouldn't know that implies that NATO implies continued support for Ukraine. But I don't know, man. What are we doing? Let's talk about inflation. Like, that's the thing they got you on. Like, Biden inflation. I use that in my day-to-day speech. You know what I mean? That one stuck.
Yeah, and a common mantra around my household is like, Joe Biden's America.
Exactly.
like when I'm looking to go buy something, or I talk about like, oh my God, I just spent $17 on fucking chicken breast, whatever. Yeah. Joe Biden's America.
It's Biden inflation going on. It's running rampant. What are you gonna do? Oh my goodness, man.
But him starting off this conference talking about NATO and the importance of NATO is excusable because that was the meetings he was just coming from. That was the context of the event. But about maybe 5 minutes after he was done talking about that, or after about 5 minutes, he talked about NATO. Then we got into the unprompted questions. He did not know what they were before. He did receive a list of people to call on. I don't know what that means. I feel like that's pretty typical, honestly, that you get a list of who to talk to.
Like in an organized thing like this, especially because he would come out and he'd be like, Alyssa Slotkin, AP, or something like that, you know?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. But this is the first question he was asked. And we're going to take a listen to it. I got a clip here. It's about 30 seconds long or so. We're going to listen to Biden's response on this. And again, I can't stress enough that this was literally the first thing he was asked. This is the very first question.
Fresh mind.
The first person you're going to hear is the reporter asking the question. I don't remember which publication he's from. And then Biden will give his answer. And brace yourself if you didn't see the press conference. Here we go.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
God damn it.
So let's start there.
Start
Number one.
there.
The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
That's rough. That's really fucking rough.
That's a good one. Just a side note, I guess it plays well with like average people talking about how you are the most qualified candidate to be president. There are no qualifications for president. Literally, Donald Trump held that office, brother. Like let's get away from the idea that there are qualifications to do this.
Yeah, it does involve a little bit of self-delusion that like he's saying he's the best guy to do it. But that's normal among presidential candidates. But of course, Biden did say not that long ago, I think back in December, that there's probably 50 other Democrats that could beat Donald Trump in an election.
And I think the polls agree with you. I think the polling is agreeing with you right now.
And the thing is like him saying Vice President Trump is funny. A lot of people are focusing on it, and it is kind of just a regular gaffe. And if it was a crime to say the wrong name every once in a while, I'd be in fucking federal prison forever.
Exactly.
Like I misspeak, everybody misspeaks, Biden misspeaks. The issue, though, is that this speaks to a broader problem with Biden, that he cannot convey a compelling message for why he's the candidate and why he should be elected over Donald Trump in November. It speaks to a broader issue. It's not just that it's an individual gaffe, it's that it speaks to the concerns, the rightful concerns that we have with Joe Biden and his inability to assuage them or build a message around himself and his policies.
It's not an isolated incident, and especially when this is your first like major like appearance to prove the haters wrong after an awful, abysmal, historically bad debate performance. First 5 minutes we're having a gaffe this bad, man. I don't know, man. And it's like even just throughout the rest of the night, all the answers that he gave, they weren't as bad as at the debate. Like it felt more coherent. He spoke a lot better than he did. He
sounded
at the debate.
better, certainly.
But it's like they were very just like rambly and whatever, and none of it really inspired any confidence.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna be fucking real. We always complain about how Donald Trump is graded on a curve, right?
Yeah.
Like he's given the benefit of the doubt relative to all the crazy shit he said in the past. We are now grading Joe Biden on a massive fucking curve.
Absolutely.
We're saying like, oh, this is good for him when Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, Barack Obama, whoever else would fucking wash any performance that Joe Biden's had over the last 2 years.
Gavin Newsom dogged on fucking Ron DeSantis in a 2v1 with Hannity.
Yes. Like we're grading on a huge curve here, and that is not what we should be doing if we want to win the election in November.
Ron DeSantis pulled out a poop map in that debate, and Gavin Newsom was still able to talk around it. I don't know what Joe Biden would do if somebody pulled out a poop map for him.
That's so fucking good. And people, the press conference understandably focused a lot on foreign policy. Joe Biden kept going back to foreign policy. Again, it makes sense in this context, maybe less excusable in others. But the after press conference conversation about it, especially on like mainstream liberal networks, was that Joe Biden showcased a command of foreign policy. And I get why they're saying that, because their job is to sort of glaze him.
Yeah.
But from like a left-wing perspective, from my point of view, he's been fucking disastrous on foreign policy for the most part.
Exactly.
Like the Afghanistan pullout was excusable because it was mostly Donald Trump's plan and it was gonna be messy.
But I don't think it polls well.
Certainly that's when his approval rating tanked.
Exactly.
And then Ukraine, I've been generally in favor of that. But like Israel and Gaza, which is mostly at the front of everyone's mind, fucking terrible.
And And then there's also the fact that nobody gives a shit about nobody cares about policy. People care even less about policy of the foreign variety.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter. You go poll 100 people fucking Family Feud style, and maybe 50 of them know what NATO is.
Because it's so far removed from what people deal with day to day.
Exactly.
And it's so far removed from the vibes. Like, you think a blue collar worker that's not making as much money as their father made cares about what fucking France is doing?
Yeah.
Or how, or if he kept saying some shit like the Finlandization of NATO. First of all, nobody really knows what that means.
I didn't even know what that meant for a little bit.
The average worker doesn't fucking know what that means. They don't care. And you know what? Maybe they shouldn't care that much.
Yeah.
Because they have other things to focus on. They're trying to put food on the table for their family. And that's the type of shit that Biden should be speaking to. But he's going on Morning Joe. He's talking with George Stephanopoulos. He's got an interview coming up tomorrow with Lester Holt that we haven't seen just yet. And he's talking about shit that people don't care about.
And it's like, I guess to the campaign's credit as a whole, I think the ads have been doing that. I've seen a lot of ads about like gas prices and shit, and it's like, okay, that's like a solid thing to like nail down on. But those are just like ads. You know what I mean? Those are ads that I skip and everyone else skips in 5 seconds when they're watching YouTube. It's not when we are tuning in to see if he can actually talk. And if he, as the leader of the party, cannot lead the messaging of the party, there's a serious problem.
It's untenable. You know, like the ads can hold off for a while. The ads can sort of I don't know, keep the campaign afloat, but at some point it's got to be Biden that does it.
Yes.
And it can't just be at rallies for short appearances. It can't be at Morning Joe phone call interviews where he's clearly reading off a script. He's got to showcase that he can actually do it in a compelling way. And, you know, I'm not expecting like Barack Obama levels of orating ability because he was special in that way. But he's got to do it. Like, he was so much better in 2020.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even that good in 2020, but he was significantly better than he is right now.
He could be funny. How many genders are there? At least 3.
Uh-huh.
I can't see that coming out. Inshallah, come on, man. That was a good moment.
Yeah. Like, Biden struggled in 2020. There were concerns about his age in 2020. But he was able to get on the debate stage. I think he won both debates against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that's necessarily a hot take. And I don't see how, if he's still the guy, he can do that at this next debate that's coming up in September, even if he's not, quote unquote, sick and jet lagged.
And it's like, the momentum is just not there for him. Trump loses the debate, then he gets martyred. Mm-hmm. Come on, man. What are we doing? We're in unprecedented territory right now. And I think because it's so unprecedented, he should step down.
Mm-hmm. Do something unprecedented. And we can speak to the empirical nature of that conundrum actually as well, because I wanted to go through some of the polling data, because there's been lots of narratives about polling, if it's good, if it's bad, and let's just dive into the numbers.
Let's do some analysis.
Because we are reality and evidence pilled here on Head in the Office.
That's right.
And so we're going to dive into the numbers. So Biden's current 538 approval rating is lower than it has ever been at 37.3% approve, 56.8% disapprove. These aggregates are reflected in most recent polling as well. It floats around 38 to 40 or so.
Wasn't Trump's approval rating like 33, 34? And that was like one of the lowest in like history.
Yeah. People don't like Trump.
People don't like Trump. And it's like,
Biden's almost there.
You're going to tell me you're 3-4 points ahead of that guy?
Yeah.
A guy that people historically hated?
And, it's hard to compare, especially to like Obama, or if we're going, back to George W. Bush or even further back. It's hard to compare because things have certainly gotten more polarized.
Yeah.
People are far more likely to just reject whoever the other party's guy is. But 37% approval is staggering, even in a country so polarized, because that means a significant portion of your own people are saying they don't fuck with you.
Especially when like, I feel like a 37% approval rating for Biden is so much worse than a 37% approval rating for Trump, because as we've already established, there are just less Republicans in the country. Mm-hmm. There are less conservatives. They have less of a base. And like, you're telling me if we're polling the country overall and you have just a higher amount of people on your side than the other guy, but you're polling the same when it comes to approval, that reflects worse on you.
Especially because in the Electoral College, Republicans don't need a majority in the national vote or the popular vote to win.
Yeah.
Like Donald Trump's got to hit like what 48%, 49%, and he can win the electoral
And
college.
they haven't. What is it? Like the last 4 Republican presidents have not won the national popular vote.
Not since George Bush, I think, after 9/11.
Yes.
Well, actually, did he win it? I can't remember if he won the popular vote in 2004.
I think it's the last 4 presidents, like not counting incumbency.
Okay.
Yeah, because Bush obviously won like crazy after won his second term because everybody fucking hated Muslims. You know what I mean?
After he caused 9/11 the false flag event.
100%.
Well, Tower 7, like what happened there? Joking. NPR just released a piece with their own polling data that shows the race is about tied within the margin of error. Once you introduce a third-party candidate, Trump gets a slight edge, I think, with like 43% to Biden being a little bit under that.
How is RFK taking from like a generic third party or like RFK?
It's probably RFK. He's the one that's polling the highest.
How is he genuinely taking from Democrats more than Republicans? I don't understand.
I don't know either, but I gotta think that he's gonna land at like 8%, right? Like he's not gonna get 20% of the vote.
No, it's gonna be something like barely kind of significant.
Yeah.
Like it could be spoiler.
Like he is not Ross Perot in 1992. You know what I mean? Because like that's the biggest third party candidate we've had in recent history was Ross Perot, and is one of the reasons George H.W. Bush lost. But he's not Ross Perot. Like I don't think the polling data is suggesting that he could be anywhere between like 8% and like 18%.
That's insane.
But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see a reality where that happens and how polarized we are, especially as we get closer to the election.
RFK voters so genuinely unintelligent. Like I can't wrap my head around
especially because people usually go from Biden to RFK for like Israel Gaza reasons. And RFK is worse than Biden on Israel.
Yeah.
like RFK comes at Biden on Israel from the right. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's like the only thing that I guess RFK maybe could have possibly had on Joe Biden is environmental policy, considering that he genuinely did come up as like a good guy who's an environmental lawyer, right? Like he had done good work there. But then his colleagues told him to step down because he was making a mockery of them. Like he's squarely on the right.
His own like children are like, Dad, stop.
Please.
And like Richard Nixon established the EPA. So, it doesn't you can be a bad guy and still support the environment.
Exactly.
More interestingly in this NPR piece, though, is that people were asked about Biden's mental fitness, and 64% of respondents said Biden is unfit to serve.
Nice.
That includes 38% of self-identified Democrats. And then there was an ABC News poll that found 54% of Democrats were saying Joe Biden should drop out of the race. Seems, again, untenable.
So funny considering at the end of Biden's press conference, he was asked, I can't remember if he was asked explicitly about the polls, but he was asked if he would like maybe support Kamala if she ran or something, or like if he say Kamala's the thing, you support her, blah, blah, blah. And he said, show me one poll where I'm not the guy beating Trump. Show me one poll where anybody else is polling higher than me against Trump. And it's like, brother, damn near every poll has Kamala points ahead of you with
your
partisans.
Own internal polling.
Your own internal polling had Kamala a point ahead of you with partisans and like 6 points ahead of you when it comes to independent voters, and 6 points ahead of Trump. Like Kamala is beating Trump if we're looking at the polls. I don't know what you're talking about. There is a genuine analysis to be had about the idea that these candidates could be polling ahead because they haven't been the victims of these like attack ads and they haven't been victims of the political process to the extent to which Biden is. But like, I don't know if we can overcome this hill that the slump that Biden's found himself in.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can.
Yeah, NPR also polled head-to-head matchups with Kamala Harris and Trump and also a bunch of others, and they found about the same results, the race being tied with Kamala Harris instead of Biden within the margin of error. There seems to be, at least in this polling, and this is like the most generous polling we've seen for Biden since the debate, it being like a head-to-head tie. This polling also seems to say that Kamala Harris would face no downsides compared to Joe Biden.
Interesting.
And on top of that, of course, Kamala Harris can speak coherently. So it seems to be polling again seems to be suggesting that Kamala Harris would do better. And as we said, of course, whoever the Democrat ends up being, they need to get the popular vote. They need to get several points ahead in the popular vote in order to actually win. Yes. Because Republicans can win even if they have like 48, 49% of the popular vote. Even more shocking, though, was an NBC poll I saw this morning that found that 62% of Democratic voters wish they had a different candidate. Nice. That's almost 2/3 of the entire party So you've got more than a third saying that Biden is straight up unfit to serve, which is the most severe accusation, that like he cannot do the job. And then you've got NBC with a poll saying more than half of Democrats think that he should drop out. And then you got NBC with a poll saying that 62% of your own voters think that they should have a different candidate. That's crazy numbers.
I do want to be clear here. The issue here is not that like someone who would have voted for Biden otherwise is going to jump ship and vote for Trump. The issue at hand is whether or not they're even going to show up to vote at all. Like that is what's going on here. This is what the fuck is the opposite of galvanizing? Whatever that word is, that's what Joe Biden's candidacy is doing.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's candidacy is depressing the Democratic voter base.
Yeah.
No one is inspired to go out and vote for this guy. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. And I feel like that's pretty simple political calculus. People want someone to be excited about.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Especially since Barack Obama, a very exciting figure, especially in 2008. People were excited about him.
Yeah.
And if we get a candidate that I know we're not going to get to like Barack Obama levels of inspiration, but we could get somebody who can inspire a little bit more, that I think that would go a long way.
A lot, especially against a guy like Trump.
Yeah.
The only two guys that could lose to each other. Come on.
There was also an updated Cook Political Report. If you don't know what this is, the Cook Political Report, basically, if you've ever seen like the R+3 or D+2, those ratings, that comes from the Cook Political Report when they're rating different districts and states as a whole. And they came out with a new report basically saying a bunch of states are moving towards the right. States that were toss up are now lean right. States that were Democrat locked are only lean Democrat. That includes New York, I think.
No
going
fucking
from
shot.
Democrat locked to lean Democrat. Important swing states like Arizona and Georgia are now leaning Republican instead of just being a toss up. Things are looking explicitly worse. And as you said, Joe Biden said at the press conference that he would drop out if they could show him data that he cannot win. Obviously, we're not going to get that data. There isn't a poll out there that's going to say it's impossible for Joe Biden to win. We can only draw conclusions based on what we have, and what we have does not paint a good picture. He's not in a good spot to win.
There's just a general refusal from him to acknowledge any of his own internal polling that he uses to craft policy platforms and do decision making.
Yeah.
That's what these Democratic internal polls are. And that's the one that was saying that, hey, look, Whitmer's up in the swing states. Buttigieg is winning every swing state. Like there's a refusal to just even accept or acknowledge the fact that, okay, yeah, some polls are saying that they're ahead of me, but remember what polling did in 2016? He could hand wave it away. But he won't even acknowledge it. Like a senile old man.
Well, and it's like, yes, polling in 2016 was off by quite a bit, but 2018, 2020, and 2022 polling was all pretty much on.
Yeah.
Polls said Joe Biden would win. They were actually overestimating him a bit in 2020. He did end up winning by much slimmer margins. 2018, they were right about Democrats taking the House. In 2022, they were right that Republicans were not going to have the red wave wasn't going to happen.
Yes.
The red wave was wholly a thing hyped up by right-wing media to get more confidence behind them. It was never something reflected in the polling data.
Yeah.
And to just reject polling and say, oh, well, my internal polls don't say that, even though we know that they do, is a very Trumpian way to deal with it. Because it's the same shit Trump said. When someone would confront him and say, you know, you're down in this state or your approval rating is below 40, he'd be like, well, I don't believe those polls.
Like,
the polls are wrong.
Those polls are bad. Look at these polls. These polls are actually great. And you're right. It is the exact same thing that Joe Biden did at that press conference. It's like, what are we doing?
Yes.
What the fuck are we doing?
It's like when pressured, both of them just resort to this narcissism that we've so associated with Trump, but is clearly present in Biden as well.
I
Huge egos.
I love politics.
Now, obviously, with the polling, there's a couple of issues. First, you can basically find any poll that will tell you any story you like. A lot of them are just within the margin of error anyways. But explicitly, there are a lot of Democrats that wish Biden would drop out and wish they had a different candidate. That is not within the margin of error. 62% is not within the margin of error. A lot of people don't want Joe Biden. And even if we start to make up that polling deficit, if Biden starts to claw back some of the points that he's lost, if the deficit does indeed exist, we would need a candidate that can actually do that. Yeah. And once again, it comes back to the same issue that it doesn't seem like Biden is capable of doing that, especially because the age issue for Joe Biden, the coherence issue, isn't something that's just going to go away. This is going to repeatedly be an issue. It's going to keep coming up because age famously is not something that gets better with time, especially as stressors increase, as he's more and more is maybe demanded out of Joe Biden as election season really heats up more and more. The issue's not going away.
And it's like one of the reporters asked him at that press conference about his 8 p.m. comment. And he's like, but like, what's wrong with that? Everybody gets to go home earlier. He's like, I'll just start my day at a different time, and I'll just end it at 8 p.m. and then fundraisers end at 10 p.m. and people can go home earlier. It's like, Joe, this is not. You are not hand waving this like you think you are. People don't really care that, oh my gosh, fundraisers are going to end at an earlier time. They care that you cannot do anything past that time. Like, it's you're not assuaging the optical blunder here.
Yeah, and because the journalist was doing good reporting.
Yes,
and they asked him like, "Oh, reporting just came out that you're going to go to bed at 8 p.m." And he was like, "No, that's not what I said." And then he went on to describe exactly the report.
He's like, "I'm just gonna end my day and wind down at 8 p.m. and maybe fall asleep so I can wake up earlier to catch Morning Joe at the popular time."
Like, telling the entire nation that you just need to pace yourself more is not a good look for the president.
You can't be very self-care as the president. You know what I mean? You when you are the president of the United States, you need to there needs to be an implication that you are running off of copious amounts of stimulants at all times. You are ready for anything that happens, and that's not there with Joe.
Look, the president is a human being. Like they get sick, they get tired, and so on. But when you're the president, especially when you're in a position that Biden's in right now, where everyone's waiting to see if he can assuage these concerns, you can't come across as even more feeble than we thought that you were.
Yes.
You can't validate the reports that you just need to get to bed a lot earlier. And it's also because that does not inspire trust or confidence.
The president does get ample time off. It's something you only ever hear coming from the opposite side whenever the other guy is president. Like when Trump was president, every liberal was talking about how he's on the golf course literally a third of the year. And now that Joe Biden's president, every conservative news channel is talking about how he's not in office like a third of the year. The president gets a pretty ample amount of time off. You know what I mean? They do get some time to de-stress. Biden spent a fucking week at Camp David preparing and resting before the debate, and this is the performance he had.
Yeah, famously, George Bush had the country on autopilot for like 2/3 of the time.
Exactly.
Like bro was never there. That's kind of what the president does. But yeah, when the Trump assassination attempt happened, Joe Biden was on vacation in Delaware,
like,
with his family. Yeah. It's just. It doesn't inspire confidence. I know that the presidency is a stressful job, but specifically because it's a stressful job, maybe we should get somebody younger.
Yes.
That doesn't need to pace themselves in the same way that an 82-year-old does.
Maybe Alito or Roberts or whoever wrote the majority opinion in the Trump case was right. Maybe we do need a vigorous executive.
Yeah. I'm thinking so. And look, the reason I bring up this polling data is not just because I want to, dunk on Biden, but because it simply isn't the case that Biden is doing well in the polls. And I don't like that he keeps saying like, oh, well, that's not what my polls are telling me. At best, the race right now, nationally speaking, is a toss-up. At worst, his poor debate performance and subsequent gaffes have pushed him down in the popular vote and have pushed swing states further to the right, which he absolutely needs to win in order to win the election. It's just like I don't know what explains his ignorance on this. I don't know if he knows that the polling is bad and he's just saying that it's not. I don't know if his team is genuinely isolating him from what the polls are saying about him, but it's just not the case that he's doing well.
I don't know. It seems like his team is infighting right now. There have been staffers that have been calling out other staffers like, no, you only have green badge access. You don't know the president like I know the president.
Oh, but we're doing the Democrat elite thing?
Yeah, you green badge staffers don't have access like I do, and so what would you know? And now you're talking and squealing to the media. And you're going to call the Pod Johns elites for calling it like it is? Come on, man.
Yeah, but we're doing purity tests based on badge color?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? And also, if you're not completely bought on the idea that Biden needs to be replaced simply because Biden right now himself is a bad candidate, you could also consider the down ballot races.
Yep.
I would wager that a lot of Democrats in swing states and swing districts all the way down the ballot are worried about the top of the ticket being a guy that excites basically no one. You want somebody during a presidential election year that gets voters to turn out, because the more voters turn out for the presidential election, the more likely they are to complete the ballot.
Yes.
It's hard to get someone to turn out for a state house race.
And we know that because nobody shows up to midterms.
Yes.
Midterms, historically low voter turnout. Like, people only vote for the president. Nobody cares about policy. They only care about the president.
Like you want somebody who you can ride the coattails of. And a lot of down ballot races depend on somebody, especially in swing states, depend on somebody at the top of the ticket being good enough to get voters to come out and fill out the rest of the ticket for Democrats. And if Biden's not invigorating people, if he's not motivating people, that's going to make a lot of would-be senators, House members, and so on scared for their chances electorally.
It's just going to be bad. Like,
Yes.
that's just a bad thing, people.
And this isn't just me saying it. Like Senator Michael Bennet, I think, I don't remember what state he's from, but he's a Democrat. He came out and said that not only is he afraid that Biden's going to lose the election, but he's afraid that Biden's candidacy itself will disincentivize people from coming out and will lead to the House and Senate going to the Republicans.
Especially
that is the worst case scenario.
The margins are so slim right now.
Yeah.
If somehow conservatives come out of this with a trifecta, what the fuck?
Jover.
Literally Jover.
Uh-huh.
Literally Jover. I have no idea what they would be able to do with that. And they're not Democrats. You know what I mean? Conservatives will obstruct.
Mm-hmm.
They will not do the compromise thing just to get legislation passed.
Yeah.
It's not
Filibuster's
gonna
gone if they get a majority in the Senate.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just done.
It's gone, but that goneness will expire in 2 years.
That would be smart. Filibuster's gone until 2026.
Filibuster is temporarily paused until 2026.
Oh, that's sick.
That's the shit that Obama should have done in 2012.
Important to note that the Biden campaign is actively polling Harris versus Trump internally. We had reporting on this over the last week. I don't know if this means that they're considering a switch up or if they're just trying to prove that Biden's the better candidate.
Yeah.
It could be either, but they are doing it. So keep that in mind. Some extra notes on Biden before we move on to geopolitics. There were some, obviously we had the Morning Joe appearance, which I thought was just a disaster.
Yep.
He called in to Morning Joe. His face wasn't on the camera. Very much like Donald Trump calling into his favorite morning news show and was very clearly just reading from paper. It was not good. George Clooney, long time sort of Democratic elite, I guess you would say, dropped an op-ed basically saying Joe Biden needs to drop out. And then Pod Save America got blamed for it. The rumor going around that the pod guys were asked about was if they wrote it for George Clooney.
That's so good.
Which is just so delusional.
So fucking good.
And then the last piece of news that we got was that there hasn't been a cabinet meeting including everybody, including Joe Biden, since October 2nd of last year, which is suspiciously right before October 7th. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, like they just stopped meeting after that, but they haven't had a full cabinet meeting in a while.
Wow, that is weird.
Yes.
That is weird.
I would think that's like a weekly, bi-weekly thing.
That's what I would also imagine, or at least monthly. Mm-hmm. At least monthly checking in on all your executive agencies. Well, maybe now they don't need to because they're just shit on.
Yeah, Chevron.
they got completely stripped of their power. Something I missed when covering the Chevron decision is in like a Loper Bright or Relentless, like one of the actual cases that they were covering, litigator, whatever the fuck they were deciding on. The Supreme Court said that there's now no statute of limitations on what federal regulations can be challenged.
Oh.
All you need is to prove that within like the 6 years of this federal rule sort of hurting you, that you have 6 years from the rule hurting you to be able to challenge it in court. Not 6 years from when the rule was established, but 6 years from when you were damaged by the rule. So new businesses that come up and say, I don't know, environment and want to dump chemicals in the lake can now challenge that because they're being harmed by the regulation. No regulation will ever be settled law now.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love how people are toting this as like it's a loss for big government when it's like, no, it's just a win for corporations.
It's a win for corporations. And honestly, if it's a loss for anybody, it's a loss for federal judges that are just going to be inundated with all of these things. And really,
Americans that don't want to be poisoned.
Actually, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we can finally get judges like Matthew Kacsmaryk to resign because all of these cases are going to be flowing through like Texas and other conservative district courts.
Fifth Circuit Court,
so that they can get to like places like the Fifth Circuit and they can move up through the conservative justices and judges. Maybe they'll all resign because of the workload.
Yeah,
that'd be
way
pretty good.
Much. Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah. Do you ever think, I want to buy my way into heaven?
Always.
I want to buy my way into the good graces of the people that I'm listening to in my ears right now.
That's right.
You can do that if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. And not only will you be supporting the show, not only will you get early access to all of the content that we produce, but you'll also get an ad-free experience on the Patreon every Sunday, every time we release an episode.
You'll be able to pull up to the sermon on Sunday, on the Lord's Day, to hear the gospel as it's spoken.
Yeah, no more being late, no more interruptions mid-episode if you're listening to this ad right now.
Exactly.
It's on patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's one of the best ways to support the show. It's one of the longest enduring ways to support the show.
Help buy a pass from all the sins you've committed. Start coming to church.
Yeah.
And we can get things going.
Yeah, that's only if you head over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. It's in the description. It's there for you. Now it is time to move on to our favorite topic. The only topic that matters for us.
Right.
And that's Geopolitics.
Come on, we're foreign policy heads over here.
We are the #1 geopolitical podcast, and we've been sort of neglecting our geopolitical roots because of everything that's been happening since the debate.
We have. Guys, forgive us. It's been crazy.
It's
actually
been really crazy. Domestic news has been fucking wicked.
Yeah.
Obviously, terrible things still been happening in Gaza that we'll talk about. We got some French elections to go over. But look, we're back on our geopolitical shit. We had a listener last week comment on our episode last week asking if we could cover Gaza, so we're back and we're doing it.
Of course.
And just know it's still been really bad.
Yes, things have not lightened up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
So on the ceasefire front, starting with Israel and Gaza, there haven't really been any developments. Biden keeps saying that we're close to a ceasefire deal he's been saying this for 4 months at this point.
Yes.
During the NATO conference, he was asked about it. He said we're close to a ceasefire deal. He's been saying this for months.
Just empty.
Yes.
It's honestly always been empty because the day after he announced that they were close to a deal that Israel put forward, Netanyahu said, I did not say that shit.
Yep.
And then ramped up whatever he was doing in southern Gaza.
It basically doesn't mean anything at this point. It doesn't seem like a ceasefire deal is anywhere close to happening. More recently, Israel launched an airstrike on El Mawasi, an area in southern Gaza near the Mediterranean Sea. This was the latest airstrike as of recording this episode. The Gaza Health Ministry said at least 71 civilians were killed and almost 300 were injured during the bombing.
Is that the most dangerous one
event?
Event, single event?
It's hard
so
to even
far?
keep track. There's been so many.
Oh my God. Okay.
But yeah, 71 killed in one bombing run. Naturally, of course, as is sort of Israel's tradition at this point, this was a designated safe zone, but was hit nonetheless. Of a quote from BBC here, an Israeli military official said he did not know how many people died in the strike and would not say if the 2 Hamas men were among those killed or wounded.
2?
Yes, they were going after 2 Hamas guys.
May I remind you, dear listener, that these are the people whose spokespeople have gone all across the world, all across the airwaves, to get on and say that they're the most moral army in the world. And they have lawyers that do complicated analysis on every single airstrike that they do to determine whether or not it is legal and okay to do.
Yeah.
But it's okay to kill 71 people and injure 300 to maybe get 2 Hamas guys?
And they can't even say that they got them. He said, I would not say, the quote was, they would not say if the 2 Hamas men were among those killed or wounded. So I'm going to guess that means they weren't there.
Yeah, probably. Probably they had bad intel.
That just means they just killed 71 people for nothing. Nothing at all. And is that the ratio? 2 for every 71 people?
And
We're going 1 for 35?
The Israeli spokesperson on Piers Morgan, the one time Piers Morgan did actual journalism a couple months ago and he was nailing him on it, would not say what the ratio is. He said, we have a solid ratio of people killed, but I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Can't tell you, though.
It somehow gets worse, though. I have another quote from the same article. Quote, he said the strike targeted the head of Hamas's military wing, Mohammed Deif, a top target for Israel's military, and took place in an open area where there were no civilians. He refused to say whether it was inside a designated safe zone and said Hamas leaders had cynically set up in a civilian area. Contradicting himself back to back.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying he wouldn't say if it was a safe zone, but then saying that Hamas had set up in a civilian area seems to be contradictory.
There are no civilians in the civilian area, though.
There
are no civilians in the civilian area. It's it almost feels like they don't have to try anymore. And I mean, maybe we've been guilty of this to an extent, but we do one show every week that's an hour to 2 hours long. There's only so much that we can cover.
And this isn't, well, importantly, this isn't journalism. We react to the news. We cover the news.
Exactly.
We aren't the ones that are breaking the news.
We aren't breaking the news and doing anything. We're just kind of interpreting, analyzing, and dispersing. You know what I mean? But it's maybe they don't have to even try anymore because the conflict has been going on for so long and the U.S. elections are happening. And there's kind of a part when talking about these things where it's I have to separate how I feel about these events, as a leftist and as a principled political actor, from how anyone in politics is actually going to talk about this in an election year. Because, again, there is the reality that the median voter sucks and does not give a shit about things that they should give a shit about. And so can I really expect elected officials like Trump and Biden to talk about Gaza in any significant length during an election cycle or during a debate?
Yeah.
I guess not. I don't know. I think that's sad and dumb and stupid, but that's kind of the reality that we're living in. But man, it's it's gone on for so long, and it's I guess maybe the attention's going off that they just feel like they don't even have to make proper excuses, not that they ever were.
Yeah.
But like, wow, it's so bold. Like,
yeah, and if you had any confusion about this story, BBC themselves went on to verify that the area was in fact designated a humanitarian safe zone based on the footage that was unveiled by Israel, I believe. It's just, again, we're totally complicit in it. And like you said, I don't expect Biden to come out here. As we've joked about many times, he's not going to come out and say from the river to the sea.
He's not going to have a cafe on.
It's just not going to happen. There's complex geopolitical issues that are at play here. But he could be far better than he is.
Yeah.
And he, I don't know. It's hard to tell at this point if it's the cognitive decline or if he genuinely is that much of a Zionist. Either way, the U.S. has been complicit in a genocide.
Well, it seems like he's just a stubborn old man. Like, he refuses to look at polling data that is telling him explicitly that people do not fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't fuck with you. I'm sorry, I'll give it to you straight. And he won't step down. He's lying about the polls. He's doing the Trump thing. And he has never once really admitted in any meaningful way that Netanyahu and Israel are doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
He has only reaffirmed support for the idea that we need to eliminate Hamas, which, as we've explained before, is just awful messaging that can only lead to more abhorrent things in this conflict.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean we need to eliminate Hamas? Joe Biden gets on there and says that we need to avoid committing the mistakes that we've made in our wars in the Middle East, the America's wars in the Middle East, while continuing to make the mistakes that America made, but it's okay because it's Israel doing it and we're just supporting it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. You can't fundamentally eliminate, like, terrorism in this sense.
That's what frustrates me about all the sort of liberal mainstream commentators going on to say, like, oh, Joe Biden demonstrated a command of foreign policy issues. It's like, this is his fucking foreign policy.
Yes.
Like, and this isn't new, by the way. Joe Biden has always been extremely Zionist. When he was first a senator in, the 1970s or 80s or whenever he first got elected, he was an extreme Zionist. He's very much still a Zionist today. It's hard to point to his foreign policy, especially when you're trying to rally your base around him right now and get them back into the electorate. It's hard to point at this and be like, oh, this is why you should vote for him.
Yeah, and it's also like, I could understand the phrasing that he has a command of foreign policy if he talked about foreign policy in any sort of like cogent way. Mm-hmm. But he can't. He cannot talk about this issue in any way that means anything. He kind of contradicts himself all the time when he talks about it, and then he gets up there and he lies. He says, Netanyahu, me, Antony Blinken, and Netanyahu sat in a room and we worked it out. You know what I mean? And then Netanyahu comes out the next day to say, no, he didn't.
And that also kind of brings me, I'm sure you've been seeing this, people saying, the liberals saying in defense of Joe Biden that you don't vote for Biden, you vote for an administration.
Yes.
Right? Like, you don't vote for one guy.
And this is true. That's an argument we've made.
It's an argument that we've made. But we make that argument specifically in the context of talking to other leftists.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the argument works the best, when you're trying to convince your own people. If you're trying to convince the broad electorate to vote for Joe Biden, that argument doesn't work.
They probably don't like federal agencies.
Well, they might not like federal agencies. They might generally want smaller government, whatever. But you're not going to get them to go to the ballot box, not for Joe Biden, but for Antony Blinken and Janet Yellen. They don't fucking care. Like, it doesn't work.
They don't know who those people are.
I say you're voting for an administration when I'm talking about the NLRB and generally the policies that have been good under the Biden administration, when I'm talking to people that already think like I do. It doesn't work on the average voter. That argument's so stupid, especially because the top people in the Biden administration is somebody like the Secretary of State, a guy who has presided alongside Biden over this fucking monstrosity of a policy with Israel.
That is so much of a harder sell to some dude that does not that only pays attention every 4 years when it's time to go vote, who's absent in the primary process. Like that is such a hard sell to be like, no, you don't understand. Like, the administrative state, you're not voting for a guy, you're not even voting for his administration, but you're voting for the Democratic interpretation of federal statutes.
Yeah, if that even matters anymore.
Exactly.
Right? It's just it's dumb and it's frustrating, because I do think I do think that argument matters, that you elect, the people around the president as much as you elect the president. But I don't think it's compelling to anybody outside of the people who already broadly agree with you.
Yes.
It's just like, especially when we're talking in the context of foreign policy, which is what every fucking, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, and all of them are talking about foreign policy and NATO right now. Like, you're not going to get people to vote for Antony Blinken as Secretary of State. They just don't care.
And it's just like, even just going, I'm still stuck on this. He has a command of foreign policy.
That was that's a quote. They were saying
there has not been like one thing with regards to Israel-Palestine that Joe Biden has commanded.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
He has just been walked over this whole entire time. He hasn't even tried to command a ceasefire. He tried to lie and say that, like, oh, we kind of got a deal worked out, guys. Like, I sent my guy over to sit in on talks.
Yeah, if the thing that Joe Biden is best at talking about publicly is foreign policy, yeah, he's gotten fucking bulldozed at almost every turn on the biggest geopolitical issue at the moment.
Damn near even rhetorically.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, from everybody else, he can't do it. He can't stand by his decisions to halt weapon sales. The only thing he has stood by, rightfully so, is the 2,000-pound bombs. No 2,000-pound bombs. But the bar's in hell, man. What are we doing?
Yeah, you can't have the most destructive thing available other than nukes.
I realize you've demonstrated a proclivity to target civilians in humanitarian zones that you've designated as safe. I'm just gonna scratch off the apartment levelers, but everything else is cool.
It's just it endlessly frustrates me on foreign policy because, like I said, people are saying he's got a command of the issues, but they've been almost using that as an excuse for how he's totally incoherent when he's talking about all of his other policies.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I can understand to an extent of like foreign policy is his wheelhouse. He's been dealing with foreign countries all of his political career. That's what he's best talking about. But one, doesn't fucking matter to the voters, and two, his foreign policy is again a fucking monstrosity right now.
Yeah.
And he looks incredibly weak on it. And not only does it not matter, but he also makes him look bad.
And I wasn't super into politics in 2016, but like, wasn't Hillary Clinton also kind of propped up as a foreign policy person?
She was Obama's Secretary of State.
Exactly. And that shit backfired so hard on her.
Yeah, Benghazi.
Benghazi. Like, come on, man. I do not think that we should prop people up to take hold of the presidency, the person who is supposed to message for the party, when the only thing they've done throughout politics is do foreign policy, something that voters do not fucking care about at all one bit. We get guys like Bernie on there. Get people who have been, I don't know, maybe Secretary of Labor's on there. Get people who have done things that have actually resonate in the hearts and minds of the American electorate, not the fucking foreign policy guy who sucks at his job.
Especially because it's so easy to make the argument that, like, oh, Biden is spending money here when it could be going towards workers in the United States.
Yes.
Obviously, that argument is made disingenuously from the right because they don't want to give that money to workers that actually need it. But that's an easy argument to make, especially when all Joe Biden can seem to be semi-coherent on is foreign policy.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work. Nobody cares.
It really is the one thing that he can just yap about.
Yeah.
Like, man, we just need a guy that can yap about, I'm not going to make groceries expensive for you.
Yeah, it's too much to ask for, I guess. That guy got primaried in 2020.
Yes, very true, very true.
In some other Gaza news, a correspondence was published in The Lancet about 10 days ago. That was some pretty big news. It was running different mathematical models for civilian deaths based on previous conflicts. Link is in the description for this if you want to take a look at it yourself. The authors in this study were considering not only the official death toll, so people that were directly killed by bombing, tank munitions, firearms, and so on, but they're also taking into account deaths that will be caused indirectly because of Israel's assault on Gaza through famine, lack of medicine, infrastructure falling apart, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, aid is still not getting in.
Yeah, importantly.
Very important. I think Biden also mentioned just taking down the pier because he's had to take it out and put it back in and take it out and put it back in because of weather, because that shit sucked anyway.
And it's on the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah. Just absolute failures. I don't know if we're still airdropping supplies in, but aid is not getting in any meaningful capacity.
Yeah. And so these authors, they wanted to take a look at using math, using empiricism, if the death toll, or they wanted to just draw predictions or projections about the death toll. And I want to read a quote from this study directly. Quote, "In recent conflicts, such indirect deaths range from 3 to 15 times the number of direct deaths.
Wow.
Applying a conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death to the 37,000 deaths reported, it is not implausible that up to 186,000 or even more deaths could be attributable to the current conflict in Gaza. Using the 2022 Gaza Strip population estimate of 2.3 million, that would translate to 7.9% of the total population in the Gaza Strip."
That's like, I don't know how you can get around that.
Yeah, it's other than
sure, you can get out there and say fake number. because it's not anything that's confirmed, I guess. But this is very much a model based on previous conflicts that I would imagine is fairly accurate and a conservative estimate. Almost 8% of the population. That is ethnic cleansing. There's no way around that.
And after reading through it, I don't think that even counts people that will end up having to leave Gaza.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like those people will be alive but completely displaced.
You can't predict that population. You can't use other historical like things to predict that.
Yeah. And again, this isn't saying that 186,000 people are confirmed dead because of what Israel has done. It is, again, using a mathematical model to predict based on previous conflicts that this is the amount we could expect to have died because of actions, both direct and indirect, on the part of the IDF.
Exactly.
That is an insane fucking 186,000 people, and the U.S. is complicit in what's happening there. That is, genocide numbers.
That's very bad.
Yeah, and it was already genocidal. Like we've been saying that since the very beginning, and we knew how bad it was going to get. But 186,000 since last October, not even a full year, is just a fucking astonishing number. And I hope it's not correct. But we've been saying for a long time that the true death toll probably far exceeds what the health ministry has been reporting.
Because I'm like, there's so many people trapped under rubble. Like there are so many factors that you cannot account for when you're just looking at, a bomb was dropped here and this is how many bodies were found. There is no aid getting in. There are no medical supplies getting in. There's no food getting in.
Hospitals have been crippled for months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hospitals are just being targeted.
Well, that's an important component, yeah.
Not only have hospitals been crippled, but they've been blown up, and universities and schools and pretty much any infrastructure within Gaza has been blown to smithereens.
Well, because there's one Hamas guy beneath the hospital in the tunnels.
Oh, you don't. Yeah, the terror tunnels. There's a list. We have the list of all the tunnels, and it's this university and this university, because the woke media, the woke institutions of higher learning.
Well, when a terrorist has however many hundreds of people hostage in a building, you should just kill all the people.
Yeah, of course.
It's just
moral
insane
calculus.
Even saying that. Like,
exactly.
What?
Oh, Hamas is using civilians as human shields. In other words, you are saying Hamas is essentially taking these people hostage because that's what a human shield is.
Yeah.
It's a hostage. And you're saying that the correct moral calculus there is to kill the human shield.
Yeah. Oh, I think I was listening to, I think it was Ryan Grimm's podcast. He's been reporting on Israel and Gaza since this whole conflict started.
Yeah.
And I think he had reported, it might have been someone else, but I think it was Ryan Grimm who reported that it was revealed that Israel was striking Hamas as they took the hostages away on October 7th, which is just like you're killing your own people.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Like they were trying to like airstrike them as they left.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Just unthinkable cruelty.
What happened to bring them home?
Yeah, I haven't even heard shit about that recently.
Yeah, that is bonkers.
Yeah, so things really bad in Gaza. Not looking like they're going to get any better. Unfortunately, regardless of who's on the ballot this election season, seems like no genocide is an option. A viable option at the very least.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What a fucking country.
I think we've got Jill Stein from the Green Party that's saying she supports Palestine, but she'll get a solid 3% of the vote.
That's right.
If that. So it's not good. Because the only third party that people are legitimately considering is RFK, who is worse than Biden on this issue.
I can't imagine working for the Green Party. Like I can't imagine like what that feels like.
Yeah.
Got to be the most hopeful people in the world.
Fucking maybe. I don't know, man. In some other geopolitical news, the French elections made headlines last week because it seemed like the far-right National Rally Party was going to win a plurality of seats in parliament after the first round of voting. National Rally is Marine Le Pen's party.
Yes, bad.
This was not a presidential election, so it wasn't like Macron versus Marine Le Pen. It was a parliament election. France's system is a little confusing. They have both a PM and a president. But this time it was just the parliament that was up for election. And it looks like the National Rally, the far right in France, was about to win big.
Yeah,
it looked like they were going to be in first.
That's what I think. We talked about that last episode or the episode before about how it was expected to be like sort of this far right sweep like across
far
Europe.
White as well, yeah.
Far white and far right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to win. They won pretty big in the first round of voting, but in France, there's 2 rounds of voting where the people who get, I think, above 12.5% go on to the second round. So it's sort of like an automatic runoff situation. And then in the second round of voting, hundreds of members from the centrist coalition and the left-wing party called the New Popular Front strategically dropped out from different races to avoid splitting the ticket between either the centrist or the far-left candidate.
Could you imagine? The communists and the liberals literally teamed up
Yes.
to take power away from the fascists. Could you imagine something like that happening here? I can't. I can't. At any time something moderately bad happens, the liberal that loses says, oh, this is the fault of the Bernie bros. This is the fault of the Bernie or busters. Like if this extremist person who ran on single mothers being able to afford things would have just dropped out of the race, we could have won, and I could have continued to make things stay okay. I would have continued the status quo.
And this strategy of voting landed National Rally in third place rather than first, and it actually ended up with the far left party winning the most amount of seats in parliament. They didn't win a strict majority, so they still have to do coalition government. But it was a far better outcome than what was projected, and it's just not the kind of strategy I would expect from America. It's a different system, so it's a little different, but like, I mean, look how we're dealing with the Biden dropout story right now. You know what I mean?
And it's like, look at the infighting between like the squad and the rest of the liberals in the House. Like it's vicious. Like they would never work together.
Yeah. Now people keep arguing that the left and the center cheated to keep the far right out of power. This is objectively untrue. It was completely within bounds. It is legal to drop out of races before the ballots are actually cast, of course.
That's just strategy.
It was a relentless and brutal method of strategic voting where either the far left candidate or the centrist candidate would drop out so that the other guy could win over the right-wing candidate.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
And I'm sure they looked at internal polls and said, you have a better shot. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'll get it next time.
It wasn't just like leftists dropping out. The centrists would drop out as well so the leftists could win.
Yeah.
Like that is
fucking unheard of. I can't imagine
that they team up against fascists trying to win political power. I mean, it's heartwarming in a sense, but it's also worrying because the far right did still have massive gains.
Yeah.
They just didn't come in first place. Like they were thought that like they were projected to win. But
interesting.
It does sort of prove that at least in France there is a hard cap on how much support the far right can get. They top out around like 30 or 40%.
If only we could do politics. If only we could do politics here. And you know what? Maybe come 2028, politics will start to happen again once we're just far past Joe Biden and Trump part 2. Because this race is very much just a repeat of where we were before. Nothing has changed. Things have only got worse. A worse repeat. Yeah. I don't even want to say nothing has changed because things have strictly gotten worse in both camps.
Yes. Devolved,
both camps just suck even more. And I cannot wait to move on from this.
And look, I do believe in the argument that you should do everything you can to delay the power and growth of fascists in political office, right? But that's not compelling to a lot of people. And just saying every single election, like, oh, we got to delay, oh, we got to make sure fascists don't win is not compelling. What is compelling is offering an actual bold path for the future, which is available from people like Bernie Sanders, but not so much from someone like Joe Biden, who only recently put out a fucking platform. And that
brother, you're the president.
Yes, you're the president.
You're the president.
Yeah, and also on Joe Biden, this is not related to geopolitics, but there's been a lot of leftists that are very confused as to why Bernie Sanders, AOC, and other progressives are saying they're standing behind Joe Biden.
Yeah, oh, that was news that came out this week. Bernie Sanders announced that.
I think that's purely a move to get concessions.
Yeah.
I think that Bernie and AOC and the other progressives probably don't think that Biden's going to drop out.
No.
And they think that by rallying behind Biden, they can get concessions in a second term, or at least on the policy platform that he's proposing for this election cycle.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what's already happened. Because Biden put out a platform and there were some like Bernie-esque things.
Wasn't there something like canceling like healthcare debt for Americans or something like that? Like, yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. And it's also the idea that we talked about, I think last week, that the squad coming out against Biden could have the potential to galvanize people against the idea of Biden dropping out because they dislike the squad. I also think it would. I'm a hard agreeer on that one. Yeah. I think we can very much let the swing state Democrats and the more moderates in the party be the ones to come out against him, and then Bernie Sanders can say, "Oh my God, my hands are tied. Well, looks like we should vote for this one instead."
Yeah, I think the only issue is that Bernie and AOC and the others are sort of overestimating Biden, because I don't think that he's going to have an easy time winning.
No.
You know what I mean?
I think they could have got away with staying quiet.
I think they could have got away with staying quiet, but it's also like, okay, you've extracted these concessions from Joe Biden. You got him to finally offer a fucking political or a policy platform. That's good. but it doesn't really matter if he loses. And yeah, I think it would just be better if they just didn't say anything, because again, yeah, if they came out and said like we need to replace Biden, then it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Like there'd be no hope for doing it. They cannot be the ones at the forefront of this. But it does seem strange for them to like try to extract concessions at a time when it doesn't really seem like he can win. Not that he can't, could still happen, of course.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know if the calculus is passing the sniff test, really.
I think I would have preferred them to just keep quiet.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Did you see, I think this week the DSA removed their like conditional endorsement of AOC. I think over this, but it's like,
That's so silly.
When has the DSA done anything?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if any of you listeners are in the DSA. I'm sure you're better than most of them. Genuinely, but like, when has the DSA Canada ever got anywhere or done anything?
I might be speaking out of my ass, but strangely, from what I see on Twitter, it seems like the DSA sort of has like a hierarchy of power problem.
Really?
It seems like the people at the top kind of just make like the big endorsement decisions.
Oh, interesting. Isn't it just supposed to be this entirely decentralized?
I could be making shit up. That's just the vibe that I get. I'm not trying to like shit on anybody though.
Interesting. I am.
Yeah, no.
At the end of the day, I think that the DSA, or at least as it appears on Twitter, is somewhat unserious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially like in their reaction post October 7th. You know what I mean? Like we had that whole nuanced conversation back then. The DSA,
Chicago DSA dropped
the parachute
for the
picture. Like, brother, what this is now is not the time. Like
never's the time. I condemn Hamas.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, man, it's just kind of corny. Like it feels like a lot of these like left-wing organizations, these left-wing groups just refuse to do like engage with politics as it is.
It gets especially weird with AOC because she is like, other than Bernie Sanders, the best politician the progressive wing or the leftist wing of the country's got right now. Like she's the best one.
And she's popular.
Yeah.
Immensely. Like
her, Rashida Tlaib, and the other members of the squad, of course, they're all good. Rest in peace, Jamal Bowman. But like AOC has been effective politically. She has involved, and like, you know, people criticize her for becoming a part of the establishment, but she has made herself a part of the democratic machinery in a way that like if she didn't do that, then she kind of just gets nothing done ever. And I don't know, it feels counterproductive to hate on her so much because you don't know what strings are on her. You don't know what she has to give up in order to make progress. And ultimately, progress is made through engaging with the system.
And I was going to say, you don't know what concessions she's making. You don't know what backdoor deals are going on. Yeah. I can agree that, it's right to criticize AOC for some of her decisions, like continuing to vote to, like, I think people were attacking her last year or the year before for, like, continuing to vote for, like, funding for Israel and funding for the Iron Dome.
Yeah, and I don't know if she's fully said genocide yet, which, like, criticize her for
exactly,
that.
Which that's right. But, like, we're going to, like, performatively remove our endorsement from AOC if that endorsement even fucking meant anything, because like it's silly. I just feel like it's silly. Honestly.
Well, and it's like, my support for any politician is wholly conditional.
100%, yeah.
Like, you only get it if you're fulfilling the ends that I want to see happen. You know what I mean? And to the extent that AOC is doing that, she's going to get my support. You know, she's done some corny things. She's done some things that I think she could do better. But on the whole, she's like one of the best politicians there is in Congress right now.
Exactly, and she's so popular, and she's so popular within her district. Like she's a mainstay in American politics for at least the foreseeable future.
There's many other figures you could use your political time to go after. I guess is the point. Now, lastly, on the French elections, I want to link it back to Israel really quickly before we move on. There were members of the Israeli government that came out and endorsed Marie Le Pen in the national rally.
I wonder why.
Even though,
Wait a second.
Yeah, members of the Israeli government endorsing the far-right National Rally Party in France. Even though there are several members within the National Rally that are not only anti-Semitic, but are explicitly neo-Nazis.
I was going to say, doesn't France have like a huge like problem with that?
I mean, neighbors of Germany. Yeah, I'm saying, well, nearby Germany. You know what I'm saying? There have been several members in the National Rally exposed for just Holocaust posting on Maine.
Wow, on Maine?
Yeah, they said something about like, God, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about gas chambers being framed in a positive light, and it was a bad thing.
Wow,
it was
one of the
thing.
most optically bad things about that whole event.
Yeah.
How are we gonna make sense of that one?
Also, just talking about Nazis in a positive light. Anyway, I linked this back to Israel because, you know, seems like they shouldn't support the National Rally.
Yeah.
National Rally, anti-Semitic. I thought the whole thing was was fighting against anti-Semites.
Far-right members of the Israeli government weird history when it comes to commenting on those things. Weird history. I'll leave it at the Netanyahu literally does Holocaust revisionism.
Yeah. It was actually Muslims that did the Holocaust, according to Netanyahu.
Oh my God. You know this picture of the Palestinian guy with
Just to end off on some things that are happening after we're done recording. As we kind of alluded to, the RNC starts on Monday. We're recording this on Sunday, July 14th.
Unfortunate date.
Trump's likely going to announce his vice president tomorrow, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So on Monday for us. So we don't know who his vice president is. I think the betting markets are saying JD Vance. So maybe it's going to be him.
God. Really?
Yeah. I mean, JD Vance has really been out there in support of him, but I don't, JD Vance is, he's good at the rhetoric. He can speak better than Trump, seems more disciplined than Trump. But I don't really know what he does for Trump.
I was
what I mean?
I don't know what people he picks up that Trump didn't already have. Because again, we talked about this last week when we talked about the DEI president in Kamala Harris and how everyone's vice president ever in history has always been someone who fulfills this sort of diversity area that they don't, so they can help appeal to a broader range of people. I think LBJ was a vice president, right?
JFK. Yeah.
When LBJ was vice president, it was because he was a Protestant.
Yeah.
And so he was able to appeal
and he's from Texas.
He was a Protestant from Texas, so he was able to appeal to Protestants when JFK, the Catholic, was running for president. You know what I mean? It has always been you have picked a guy because they fulfill optics that you don't. JD Vance came up within the Mitt Romney picked Sarah Palin because Sarah Palin was a woman in the Republican Party.
No, that was
John McCain.
Yes.
John McCain picks fucking Sarah Palin because she's a woman. They want to kind of legitimize Republicans with female voters. Like that's how you do politics. That's what's going on here.
Or Barack Obama chooses Joe Biden because he's a white establishment guy. Trump chooses Mike Pence because Trump is not a religious figure. Mike Pence is very much an evangelical Christian. Like this is what you do.
Pence gave his campaign legitimacy. JD Vance is a Trump guy. He lives and it continues his existence within the Trump wing of the party. He brings nothing to the ticket that wasn't already there.
And he's from Ohio. It's like Ohio's already going to go for Trump. They don't need Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, they need Ohio to win, but it's not like they're going to lose Ohio.
Yeah, exactly.
Kari Lake is the right choice.
She genuinely is.
She is.
I think she put in her hours. I really think she did. She rode that election She rode the election denial train.
Or Nikki Haley, she would genuinely fill in gaps for Donald Trump, but he's not gonna
I think so too, because like I've said it once, I've said it many times. I think a Haley voter is far more likely to vote for Joe Biden than Trump than like the opposite situation happening within the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
Haley voters don't like Trump, but if Trump can get on that ticket, they can be like, or if Haley can be on the ticket, then maybe.
And Trump would. I think Trump would win a lot of moderates and the people that maybe don't like him too much if he's got Nikki Haley
suburban white women.
But I don't think his ego can get over it, and it's probably going to end up being Doug Burgum or JD Vance. I could be proven wrong by the time this comes out, of course, because we're not going to make predictions because it's literally happening tomorrow or sometime before this episode drops. But seems like it might be it might be a Trump Vance ticket.
Interesting,
which is boring.
Even a Vivek, I think, just is better in some ways. I feel like Vivek very much appeals to the weird tech bro that could not vote or maybe go liberal.
And Vivek is a fantastic performer.
Oh my God, I know.
I love him. He doesn't try to be funny, but I think he's hilarious.
He absolutely is hilarious, and he will do anything. Do anything.
Almost got to respect it.
Vivek should have been the pick.
Yeah.
Vivek should have been. If you're listening on Wednesday, Vivek's not the pick. He should have been.
And then some other things happening this week is Biden has a high-stake interview with Lester Holt that is also unscripted, unteleprompted, tomorrow, Monday, July 15th. And then I don't know if I want to say Biden's got some other events lined up for later in the week, maybe on Friday. Again, they're trying to run out the clock, as we said last week. But I'm going to stick by this. I think it would be smart politically, especially after the Trump assassination attempt, for Joe Biden to announce he's dropping out on Thursday as soon as the RNC is done, suck all of the wind out of their sails, and then either endorse Kamala Harris or say, I'm looking forward to an open convention. I think that would be the goated move.
And it's low-key so annoying. Why is the RNC starting at 2 p.m. in Milwaukee on a Monday? Who is watching that? Who is watching that?
Almost makes me feel like they're trying to hide it. They don't want people to. I feel like wasn't the DNC back in 2020 at night? So people can watch it?
And the RNC was also at night, and that's when they brought out Kyle Rittenhouse. And
and the people that tried to shoot at
the people that pointed guns at BLM
Yes,
protesters
that's
because
who it
they were
was.
just walking in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
I wonder what lunatics they're going to bring out this year. I feel like there's been nothing like to that level that's gone on. It's been a mid-year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like who would be like a cultural, like the Hawk Tuah girl. She doesn't like Trump.
She doesn't like Trump.
Hawk Tuah girl. And that shit is incredibly corny. I hate that. That's like a trend right now. I don't know who they would bring out.
There's no like interesting figures like there was in the. I wouldn't even have called, other than Kyle Rittenhouse, I wouldn't have even called them interesting figures, like the couple that just pointed guns at black people.
It was only interesting that they got platformed at the RNC.
Exactly. That
was
made
crazy.
them interesting. There's been nobody that's been like the figure of like a wicked flick except Trump.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see like Ron DeSantis. I'm guessing Kari Lake will be there. Vivek will speak on behalf of Trump. We'll get Tim Scott, like all the people that ran in the primaries, except like Chris Christie and maybe Nikki Haley won't be there either. They'll all say something in favor of Trump, but I don't know. Like, what sauce does the RNC even got this year?
Madison Cawthorn is not there to stand up. Like
he's been excommunicated completely.
Exactly.
Like he's never coming back to Republican politics. He got toothpaste out of the tube on that one. Not putting the cat back in the bag.
And it's like they got nothing. They got nothing to stand on. But Democrats have the opportunity to do the coolest thing ever.
That would be so sick.
And contest the convention.
Contesting that would make me so happy.
I'd live stream.
Because, like, imagine if we don't have a contested convention for the DNC, which is not happening next week. It's happening, I think, in August. So we don't get a contested convention. We just get speeches from ultimately Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris would give a speech. Then what else do we get? Like, who else is there?
Like,
They're going to get Harry Sission from TikTok to come on and meet ride for a speech? Like, is he going to do something?
They going to get the Hawk Tuah girl because she doesn't like Trump?
You're going to get the most annoying liberals on there to support you? Like, I'm going to be depressed.
And it's like there's not anybody cool that, like, the liberals understandably can't shamelessly pick somebody who is just at the center of an awful moment in history to come speak for no reason. They can't just bring them out on stage. It's like they can't have any fun.
Yeah, well, that level of delusion doesn't exist for liberals.
And that's probably a good thing.
No, that is like undeniably is a good thing. But the issue is like it lacking the open convention. There's gonna be nothing fun for the DNC. It's gonna be another depressing Biden speech moment where he coughs and goes blind.
Yeah, and it's like, to be fair, the DNC always fucking sucks. Like I've never paid attention to it, but I have seen moments from the RNC, notably the 2020.
It's funny.
RNC.
It's really funny.
It's wicked the lengths that they will fucking go to. Like, I don't know, man. This is the one opportunity that they have to take all the attention away from the RNC. There's an institutional bias here.
Yeah, they could do it. I genuinely think that'd be the best move. If there was ever a time to do it, and it wasn't, in the past few weeks, now's the time to do it. They got the polling data.
Yeah.
Jill Biden and Hunter Biden have had time to come around on the idea that their loved one needs to get out of the race.
White House staffers have had private meetings with Joe and Hunter Biden to tell Joe to step down.
Yeah, there's been plenty of time for Democrats to call on Biden to get out of the race. Now, look, this week would be the time. Pray after the episode drops, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all this analysis is still relevant.
And it's also like, it's just, even if it's not a contested convention, even if there's not a mad scramble for delegates to go,
but that would be so fun.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Naturally, I want to physically see them running around and going to vote for people like at Super Tuesday or whatever.
That is like, if Biden announces next week and we learn that we're getting an open convention, that is like a solid month of coverage.
Yeah, that's so
and then
good.
Especially once we get to the convention, I think it would end up being Kamala Harris anyways, because she's the vice president. She's been in the office. She's been on the ticket. She's won before. It would be fun.
Yeah.
And it would get a lot of attention. People would be excited, genuinely excited, and Republicans would be completely silent. They wouldn't be able to get any coverage because everyone would be focused on who's the Democrat nominee going to be.
Shut the fuck up. That's a massive question. And then that I feel like that's genuinely such a boost, like actually going into November. But either way, even if it's not an open convention, and Joe Biden announces this week he's just stepping down and Kamala comes up to run, you just host the DNC as a glaze fest for like Kamala to push forward a new platform. That's also just content.
Well, yeah, because otherwise it's a glaze fest, and we know that everyone's fake glazing.
Exactly.
Like, nobody's convinced that you actually like Joe Biden. You're just like, Gretchen Whitmer's been tweeting like she's a fucking hostage. Gretchen Whitmer has been tweeting like she's got like the entire U.S. military arsenal aimed at her.
Exactly.
And if she doesn't say anything good about Biden, Michigan's wiped off the map. Like, I don't believe any of these governors when they're like, Joe Biden's the guy. He's got a lot done, and I thank him for his leadership.
Yeah,
nobody believes you.
It's not happening, and it's like, at least when they lie about Kamala, I can delude myself into believing it. Imagine if we get Kamala coming on stage running Coppola unironically. Come on, man. Come on. That's a winning message with this electorate right now.
She can come out and say, I'm a prosecutor. I've seen criminals like Trump all of my life.
Oh my God, it'd be so
the
good.
only way to attack her on that is to say that she unjustly locked up a bunch of black men for marijuana charges.
Exactly.
But the right thinks that's fine.
They can't do that.
That she would get suburban voters if they say that. Like it is the best way to go. I don't even like Kamala Harris.
I don't. I really don't. K-Hive memes aside, like
she sucks as like a person and a politician.
Yes.
But hey, I want to win.
I do.
I do. And she's cringy. She's got silly moments, but I think she's a real person. She can speak, and she's genuinely funny. She's got some funny moments.
Wakanda forever.
Come on, that's funny. That's funny. And it's better than the Nancy Pelosi taking a knee with the like traditionally
with the kente cloth.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, we've been recording long enough. I hope you enjoyed the extra long episode yapping about all this nonsense.
I don't even want to say what a week, because the week was whatever. What a night last night, Saturday night, July fucking 13th.
And who knows what news we're gonna miss between now and Wednesday.
Oh my
Jesus
God,
Christ. If you want to support the show, if you've made it this long, head over to Patreon, become a patron, get early access, and enroll in the postcard program. Again, those will be sending out probably within a week or two.
Yes.
And then also get some Hiddo merch.
HiddenTheOffice.com.
Our merch drop's been live for a few weeks now. If you want some merch, get out there and get it. Beautiful stuff there.
It's pretty beautiful, amazing t-shirts. The best t-shirts I've ever seen. Nobody's ever made a t-shirt like this.
No, it's true.
Nobody's ever been so cool and on such a cool list as these people right here. So I got to give a special thanks to
very special.
Caden Kraut, Lord Tal the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vesquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stentrum, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cuts, Veryuk, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishin, Benneth Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and His Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Contact, Corey Chambers, Ellie N, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Dew Slayer, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith, The Grottler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, In Hope of Giants, AK Gone, Equana Don,
Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Pab the Pab 69, Kayla Lowe, Enna Volinik, Casey C, Siesta West, August, Particular Pikmin, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Zen doing their best, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ender, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Dick Cheney in 3-inch Heels, Lala Valesco, Particulon, Memfrez, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Lauren, Uncrasmatic Boar. Oh my God. Sasquatch, Rhonda. It's been a long pod.
It's been a long pod. Long list. I want to see it get longer.
Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, Patrick Simpson, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Dialectic Dreamer, Kevin Kasaya, Snoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Dew Fairy, Chalceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon.
Gosh.
As always, every single piece of data,
that's right,
an article, every article will be in the description if you want to look at our sources, because we're a well-sourced podcast. We are evidence and reality pilled.
Oh my God, evidence and reality pilled. The optics analyzers right here. Come on, guys.
The only podcast
that does it all like we do.
And once again, I'm asking you to lock in. Gotta lock in.